should be. All right, I should be live. Let's see, my sound should be good. Hopefully, I'm coming through good. It seems like I'm kind of slow. It seems like I'm kind of delayed a little bit. Let me see if a filter will help with like the. Yeah, it looks okay. No, don't want to do that. Black and white. Oh shit. I think this is fine. I think this is fine. That's cool. Okay. Okay. Blah 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 blah. So let's see if my sound is all right.
Tokibook, connecting book lovers community. Tap on
Oh, it's not popping up. I gotta. Okay, maybe I'll end up probably. Come on there then. Let's see. Come on, audio. What's going on with my audio? Let's see. My audio's not being great right now. Well, for some reason it does not want to load. I don't know what happened. Maybe the Wi-Fi is bad. I'm thinking maybe the Wi-Fi might be bad. I'll disconnect from the Wi-Fi. What's going on, man? Shoot. Speechify? What the hell? Close Speechify. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's what's messing me up. Maybe Speechify was trying to play?
Chapter 2.
Okay.
Of course, magic is a thing. Jason read the screen.
Come on. Okay.
The body of the dead creature
There
made
we
a
go.
fizzing sound.
There we
like
go.
a rapid chemical reaction.
We got some
The
audio.
body started.
Okay, finally. Sheesh. I don't know what was going on. Okay, so we have audio. I'm doing this a little bit different because instead of being in my truck, how I normally am, I'm in my car. I'm in my car this time. So, but if I can remember how last video had left off, I know that Jason found out that he was rich. We found out that Jason was rich, and he is about to go explore and get ripped off. That's what I remember. So we got audio. Let me know if the audio is good. And what is going on, bro? My audio keep messing up. I don't know what music. Bro, hold on. Yo, this is crazy. Okay. There you go. Now does it work?
Chapter 24.
Okay.
Astral
God,
space.
man, they really messing with me with the audio, yo.
So how long are we going to be trekking through the desert? Jason asked. I'm not saying there isn't a stark beauty to it, but I'd like to go someplace where even the sunshine isn't
Okay, so that's chapter 24. So I think I'm on chapter 25. I think I'm on chapter 25. So I think we're going to continue on chapter 20. It's 25 or 26?
Chapter 25. Blasphemy is kind of my thing. After handling the string of Heidels, Rufus made his way into the village. He knew from their previous visit that the inns were all clustered together, so he had no concerns about finding the rest of the group.
Okay, I think it was on 20. I think it was on 25. Right?
The sky was turning a rich blue, with orange and gold encroaching as twilight.
So yeah, so I'm just start from there. I'm gonna start for 25, and then we'll just kind of go from there. But I think I'm right though. I think I'm right. So So let's start from there then.
Light came over the desert. Along the ring road of the village, magic lamps were lighting up, and some kind of night market was setting up. He came into the village along with a good many quarry workers who had finished up as they lost the light. Moving amongst the gathering people, he saw a familiar face. Jason? Oh, g'day, Rufus, Jason said with a wave. He was behind a stall selling skewered meat, helping what Rufus assumed was the stall owner to fry meat. What are you doing? Rufus asked. Dan here is teaching me to cook... What was it called again? Brouchard, Dan said. It's a giant worm, Jason said. Luckily, I tried it before I found that out. You seem to be adjusting well, Rufus said. Yeah, no worries, Jason said. You go get your revenge or whatever. I'm good here. Gary picked the inn on the end with the big livery, by the way. There's a sign with a little house and a cart on it. Thanks, Rufus said. Now, Jason said, turning back to Dan. Give me those sauce ingredients again. I haven't heard of any of them, so I'll have to write them all down, which means I'm going to need some paper. Hours previously, Jason was happily meandering around the circle road, frequently pausing to take in the village. He'd stop and talk with villagers who proved more than ready for a conversation. They were proud of their village, and rightly so. Jason was happy to acknowledge. The colourful houses looked inviting. Everywhere was lush with greenery, so removed from the desert around it. The air was fresh, cool, and clean. Jason thought back to Gary's claim about a gold coin buying whole buildings and found himself tempted. He came across something that looked like a covered bus stop, but instead of a timetable, there was a bulletin board with various pieces of paper pinned to it. Looking over them, he saw that they were all descriptions of monsters, along with when and where the monsters were.
Let me know if this audio is okay. I tested it out earlier, and it seemed to be going through pretty smooth. So if there's any issues, I'm pretty sure you'll let me know. But I think right now it's good from what I had tested.
Last seen. He asked a passerby about it, and, true to form for the village, she was happy to explain. According to the villager, Doris, anytime someone discovered a monster around the village, they would write down the details and put it up on the board. Every month, some adventurers would pass through and clear out all the monsters on the board. Doris was surprised at Jason's lack of knowledge about something so basic. As he had done a number of times that afternoon, he explained that he had recently come from an isolated area, with little knowledge of the outside world. It was more or less true. Jason himself was as interesting to the locals as they were to him, as visitors were mostly the same selection of stone traders. Adventurers didn't often appear outside of the monthly patrol, and by all accounts were a surly bunch. Roaming the remote villages was apparently a punishment duty, so their visits weren't often friendly. A group of higher-ranked adventurers passing through was the talk of the village. Jason was traveling with them, but wasn't an adventurer himself, making him more approachable. This was the perfect combination for villagers looking for gossip. Jason obliged with harrowing tales of blood cults and ritual sacrifice. The locals showed Jason the best place to get a drink and where to avoid because it was full of drunken quarry workers. He met people who made a career out of diving the lake for water quintessence, the village mayor, and the man in charge of guarding the waterfall. People were allowed to go up for a look, but there were guards at all hours to keep people out of the astral space aperture that was the water's source. When the sun started to set, Jason watched the sky turn to red gold from the bridge over the channel that flowed from the waterfall into the village lake. He knew from the locals that there would be a night market, and he slowly wandered in that direction. One of the earliest booths to set up was a man frying skewers of meat. The smell of the meat and the sauce he had on them was incredibly enticing. That smells amazing, Jason said. I have to try one. I'm Jason, by the way. Dan, the man introduced himself.
I'm really ready to see him get ripped off, man. I swear. Like he's going to this village or whatever, and he's talking to these people and getting fish and all these other different food and stuff. I'm really wanting to see like if anybody's gonna rip him off, or is maybe somebody gonna come in and try to like, manipulate him into like giving him something that's like valuable or something. Like they say that everybody kind of gathers the water quintessence, which I know the quintessence is like a group of things that they've been trying to make essence, but it's not essence. They haven't figured it out yet, but I'm still learning about the essence and the quintessence and how all that stuff even works. And
Gary blearily stumbled downstairs, his huge feet thundering on the wooden steps.
My audio was
downstairs was a common area with a number of tables and a bar that saw use in the evenings. Gary wandered into an adjoining courtyard with more tables to sit with Anissa, Rufus, and Farah at theirs. Jason not up? Gary asked. I tried his room, but no answer, Rufus said. Heavy sleeper, Farah said. He was knocked out how many times in 2 days? Gary said. He probably needs it. A serving girl walked up to their table. Are you looking for your friend? She asked. He's in the kitchen. What's he doing in the kitchen? Farah asked. Performing miracles.
I gotta remember
Jason
these names
announced.
too. So wait, so let me remember these names. So we got Farah. Farah is the chick who has the fire powers, or at least she has like high offensive powers is what they have said. And they make fun of her because she doesn't have any versatility. And then you got Rufus, who is like the leader of the group, and he's really good with sword play, and apparently his family's like really famous or really rich or something like that. And then you have Gary, and he is like, I forget what the race is called, but he's like the beast lion face type of dude with a bunch of fur, and he has extremely high stamina and stuff like that. So Farah, uh, uh, Gary, and I literally just forgot his fucking name already. Rufus. Farah, Gary, and Rufus. And then the one chick who's like a healer, but she's like a temporary part of the group. I forget her name. Marson or not Marson. What the fuck am I talking about? It's like I don't know. I don't remember her name actually. But try to remember these names though. Try to remember some of these names and not get confused.
Announced, walking into the courtyard. He was carrying a huge tray with 4 plates. He set it down on the table, distributing the plates and attendant cutlery. Turns out they have tamarind and some kind of little onion, Jason said. So I made son-in-law eggs. No idea why they're called that, by the way. Or what kind of animal these eggs are from. Delicious, though. The dish was eggs that had been boiled, then deep-fried, served in halves with a sauce, fried onions, and generous garnish. Jason handed the empty tray off to the serving girl before taking a place at the table. I had to play trial and error with some of the other ingredients, he confessed. But it worked out pretty well.
Wait, is this dude cooking now? Is he about to be like a famous chef? That'd be crazy if he became like a famous chef or whatever. But seems like he's cooking. I wonder if his food's gonna be any good.
Well, Martha is an absolute treat. Martha? Farah asked.
What up?
These are fantastic, Gary mummed.
I remember Marcin, you said he was like, I think you're like 5 hours ahead of me or something like that. I think it was. So it should be, since it's 18, let's see, 9, should be like 2:52 where you at, I think. 2:52 in the morning.
Mumbled around a forkful of egg. Martha's the landlady, Jason said. You really seem to have settled in, Rufus said.
4. Okay,
Jason nodded,
4.
but
Okay.
didn't speak with his mouth full. These are good, Farah said, between bites.
You're 6
I'm quite
hours ahead of me.
satisfied sustaining
6
myself
hours.
with spirit coins, Anissa said. Great, Gary said, yanking her plate in front of himself. The way I look at things, Jason said to Rufus, gesturing with an impaled egg, is that coming...
No, I got you though. I know it's later in the day. Listen, I just had to do like a 7-hour drive from Virginia. And so that took up like damn near my whole day today. And then I finally ate and kind of chill and had relax. And then after that, I was just like, I kind of want to continue on with the story and kind of see where we're going from here. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to cheat though. I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to start reading it ahead of time and then come back. And then now I'm on a different part. I'm really trying to go live and read through at least the entire first book and just do it all live. So I was going to read for a couple hours today. So I was like, I might as well just go live and do it. And, if people miss it or whatever, they can always go back and watch it later. So it wouldn't be that big deal. But I'm thinking I'll probably go probably about 2 hours today. So I'll probably be done by like 12 o'clock or so. And then after this, I'm going to head to bed. That's the plan.
Coming here is like a fresh start. I can do the things I regretted never doing. I'm only 23, but I've been pretty efficient about squandering my opportunities. There's a surprise, Anissa said, flatly. Apparently being mean isn't impure, Jason said, prompting Anissa to jump to her feet. You dare blaspheme? Frequently, Jason said with a laugh. It's kind of my thing. I think cooking might be your thing, Gary said, around another mouthful of eggs. I can have more than one thing. Anissa was clearly about to erupt, but Rufus forestalled her.
That's her name.
Anissa, he said firmly. If you're not having breakfast, then go get ready to start out. I'm already prepared, she said stiffly.
You say you have holidays? What holiday? What holiday? Oh, Easter. Are you celebrating Easter like Sunday? But it's not Sunday yet, so you couldn't be holiday, right? So what? What holiday are you talking about? Easter. So you're talking about Easter. So what? You had the day off. Oh, so you must have the day off tomorrow. So now you can stay up late because you ain't gotta go to work or whatever. I get what you're saying. I got you. Me, I'm about to go on vacation soon, so I'm just chilling in general.
Then take a walk, Rufus said. Anissa glowered at Jason, but walked away without speaking further. Rufus turned a weary gaze on Jason. Is there any chance you could maybe not poke at her so much? Rufus asked. Honestly? Jason said. Probably not. Gary snorted a laugh. Could you at least try? Rufus asked. We both know she's never going to bend, so I need you to be the bigger person, for the unity of the team. Jason sighed. I guess I have been a bit childish, Jason said. All right, I'll do my best. Fair warning, though, my best may not be that good. She just gets under my skin, you know? Oh, we know, Farrah said. I'm amazed she doesn't bump into things, Jason said, always looking down her nose like that. Think of it this way, Rufus said. You were just talking about getting a fresh start. Try and see this as an opportunity to be a better person. Jason thought it over. I like it, he said. I can be the person I choose to be, without all the baggage of my old life. And if you find your way back to that life? Farrah asked. Then I'll return better than I left.
That's
Jason
right.
said.
That's how you do it.
That's admirable, Rufus said, then popped his fork into his mouth. These really are good. Don't talk with your mouth full, Farrah told him. You're not Gary. Was that a compliment or an insult? Gary asked. So how did your roaring rampage of revenge go? Jason asked. You did say you weren't going to kill him, right? Farrah seemed a bit keen on torturing him, though. We didn't find him, but we have a trail to follow, Rufus said. We'll track him down, ask our questions, then hand him over to Anissa's church. Assuming we can run him down at all, Farrah said. Seems our boy left town in a hurry yesterday morning. You think the people who ran from the manor warned him? Jason asked. Most likely, Farrah said. We'll do some digging around town today, see what we can find. If we come up dry, we'll move on and leave it to Anissa's church. Well, you should start with old Murph down at the general store, Jason said. He knows all the village secrets. Jason, Farrah asked, was the world you were summoned from this village? What? Jason asked. I met him last night. So, will you be coming with us? Rufus asked Jason. I've had quite enough blood cult shenanigans, thank you very much, and want no part of whatever you do to that man. I found a guy who'll take me to the top of the waterfall. Apparently, there's a mountain path that leads all the way up. Surely they wouldn't let you go into the astral space, Farrah said. Sadly, no, Jason said. They keep a guard up there to make sure no one mucks about with it. They'll let you get right up close for a look, though. I was going to invite you, but you've got your whole revenge thing going on. I bet the view is good up there, Gary said. I kind of want to go with you. Focus, Gary, Rufus said. If the guy's gone, he's gone, Gary said. If we're handing him over to Anissa's church anyway, just let them deal with it. No, Rufus said. I have questions that need answering. We're going after him. Rufus skewered his fork into another halved egg. After breakfast.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Chapter 26.
Okay, let's see if my Wi-Fi is actually gonna work this time. But okay, so they're going after the dude who set them up. I wonder if they're gonna get into trouble, and I wonder if Jason is gonna come and help to like bail them out again. But as far as who's my favorite character so far is Rufus. I'll say it's probably Rufus. I like Rufus. I like how he's wise. He's definitely wise. You can tell that he's been through some shit, so he knows what he's talking about as far as like life and knowing who you are, what your values are, why you're doing what you're doing, things like that. So I would say Rufus is probably my favorite character so far. I like Gary though. Gary's cool. Gary's like, you know, he seems like he's pretty simple-minded. Like he's just like, oh yeah, we need the power. You need to get power. Like no, you need to get the stone or whatever so we can get more power. Like he's all about getting power and shit. He's very direct as far as like what he be thinking and stuff. And he be cracking jokes too because he be talking shit about Farrah too with her being so you know, with her powers and shit being just all offensive spells or whatever the fuck. But yeah. So I would say probably Rufus. Rufus number one, and then Gary. I like Rufus and Gary so far. Ferris, I need to kind of get more information about her. She seems like she's kind of like, like a support character. Like she's kind of goes along. She doesn't start or cause any trouble or anything. She doesn't have no really bad attitude or anything like that. So, she seems like she's cool. Um, and last has to be it has to be Jason, man. Like I still gotta know more about Jason. Still need to know about what his values are. We know that he doesn't really want to kill anybody, and he feels bad about that. But as far as like I don't know, he talks shit too, so that's kind of cool. I like that he talks shit. But yeah, I would say Rufus right now. Rufus is cool. For me, it would be Gary. Okay, yeah, I like Gary. I'm pretty sure we'll learn more as they get into like battles and fights and stuff like that, life or death situations and things. But as of right now, I would say Gary. Gary's just he's just cool. You can tell he's like level headed. He's not like panicking or anything like that. I like that type of stuff. So chapter
Waterfall.
26, waterfall. Okay.
Jason was only an occasional bushwalker, so as he climbed the steep mountain trail, he appreciated his new Iron Rank attributes. He hadn't become a sculpture of perfection like Farah and Rufus, but it was still a solid step up. Jason's guide on the waterfall
I
trail.
want to see him do some practice with his skills though. And also we need to find out how much mana he has, because a lot of these skills depend on mana. Except for, what was that one skill that didn't require mana? I know his summoning required a ton of mana, but it doesn't require any mana to like sustain. The leech or whatever ability to like, suck the blood of dead bodies or whatever. I know that doesn't require any mana. We still need to know more about his powers, because we don't know about his powers yet. So we still need one. Version 1, beautiful chapter. Wait, which one are you talking about? Vision 1? What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. Vision 1, beautiful chapter. I don't know what you mean. Are you talking about chapter 26? Maybe you're talking about chapter 26.
Full track was a man of late middle years named Hiram. Hiram's job was to watch over the aperture that was the source of the waterfall.
Go back.
Jason had met him the
Damn.
night before, with Hiram agreeing to take Jason along when he started. Jason's guide on the waterfall track was a man of late middle years named Hiram. Hiram's job was to watch over the aperture that was the source of the waterfall. Jason had met him the night before, with Hiram agreeing to take Jason along when he started his shift in the morning. Hiram was shorter than Jason, who was not tall either, but with a barrel chest and limbs of thick, ropey muscle. He guessed the shorter man outweighed him by...
No. Okay. So yeah, let me just try to correct it. So I'm not talking about the vision ability. I'm talking about the leeching the blood from dead bodies ability. That's what I'm talking about. I don't think that requires any mana. But like I said, we don't know how much more mana he has now. And so I kind of just want them to go over his powers again.
him by a good margin, and that compact power didn't go to waste. He was hauling a backpack half his own size up the mountain, yet barely seemed to notice the weight. Moisture from the huge waterfall scattered over the mountainside. Farah had told him that the water had a strong power of vitality, allowing the mountain's thick tree cover to grow, even under the desert sun. The dense canopy gave the trail blessed shade, but the heat still made its presence felt. The heat of the desert and the moisture from the waterfall made the air thick and heavy, almost a chore to breathe. To Jason, this small patch of desert felt more like a jungle. There were regular stopping points along the trail, with benches to pause and rest. Hiram didn't seem to need them, but didn't begrudge Jason. Each resting spot was placed close to where the tree line met the waterfall, where the air was cooler, and anyone resting could look out over the village. With every stop on the ascent, each higher than the last, the view became more and more magnificent. Jason had grown up in a little tourist town, and knew the kind of money a place like this could make. He suspected his new world didn't see a lot of tourism. But flesh-eating monsters wouldn't help. "What's that?" Hiram asked. "Nothing," Jason said. "Best get going again, I guess?" The roar of the waterfall grew louder as they closed in on the point where it erupted from the side of the mountain. The trees became smaller and thinner as they approached the upper tree line. "Getting close now," Hiram said loudly over the noise of rushing water. "These trees are around the same height as the fall, so only the closest ones see a lot of moisture." The sound of the waterfall grew to a cacophony where they had to shout to hear each other. The final stretch of the trail was actually a cave that led into the mountain. There was a wooden walkway with grit glued on for purchase and a magic lamp to light the way. Jason was unpleasantly reminded of the cavern he had navigated below the Vane Estate hedge maze. It was the first time he had seen wood used in construction since arriving in the village. The buildings were stone, but even the doors were made of woven reeds, suggesting the village didn't have much of a crime problem. Once they entered the cave, the thundering sound of the waterfall was amplified in echo, making even shouting a futile effort. The cave was filled with wet air, and they moved forwards carefully. Hiram had the respect for the slippery boards that Jason had learned the hard way. When lit up by lamplight on glistening stone walls, the cave was quite pretty, with much of the stone a marbled green. Compared to the humid exterior, cold, clean air blew over them from the tunnel. Jason enjoyed the refreshing feeling as they made their way towards the light he could see at the far end. As they closed on the end of the tunnel, a cool mist wafted towards them. They reached the end of the tunnel and stepped out into a stone chamber. The first thing he noticed was the light, blue and shimmering, glinting off the mist. It gave the whole chamber the feel of being underwater. The chamber looked like it had once been a natural cavern, then later carved into more practical dimensions. The ceiling was untouched from the original cave, but the floor had been worked flat, with grooves cut into it for traction in the wet. The chamber's most arresting feature was the back wall, which wasn't a wall at all. A torrent of water blasted in one side of the room and out the other, through a tunnel taller and deeper than the chamber itself. The whole chamber looked oddly like a subway station, with the rushing water in place of a train. There was a fence of vertical bars in front of the water, like a safety rail going floor to ceiling. There was a gate in the middle of the fence, although Jason could not imagine a reason to go through it. The water looked like it would rip off any limb someone was foolish enough to shove into it. Velocity kept the water on course instead of spilling into the room. Gravity wouldn't win out until the water escaped the mountain. More than a little spray still escaped, filling the chamber with wet mist. It left the walls and floor slick with water, and quickly made Jason and Hiram the same. The water was also the source of the blue light. Either there were powerful magic lamps behind it, or the water had its own luminescence. Jason...
So as far as what you talk about with him adapting, I mean, to me it seems like he adapted pretty easily with the rest of the people because they don't seem like they're any different from regular people. You know, like the people that's at the shop and, you know, him buying ingredients and cooking stuff or whatever. I mean, it seemed like they're just kind of like regular people, like how it would be in his old world. So it wouldn't be hard for him to adapt or whatever. And it seemed like he's not very judgmental of anybody else. So he's just like, oh yeah, let me get some food and I'm gonna start cooking. He's not afraid to cook or anything, like, you know, because you know how some people in some stories they'd be like so snobby. They're like, oh, I'm above getting my hands dirty cooking or whatever it is. Like he's just like a normal everyday person. Which I ended up reading a little bit of the first chapter, and I remember they said that his day ended with him like playing video games. So he was a gamer. So he should have some skills as far as like understanding how all the whole system and stuff works, because he said that he played video games and stuff. So and he said he knew what debuffs were too. So that should be pretty normal for him. But I forgot that part. I don't remember reading that part when he said that he went to sleep and he was playing video games and stuff. But yeah, it just seems like they're just normal people, because I don't think those people were, you know, any magic people or anything like that. So I don't know, the things that you really like, it's kind of like really like small stuff, really small like little details with like him adapting to, like you said, like adapting to like the people, and probably we don't know like what their culture is and things like that. Like we still don't know a lot as far as like how the world and stuff works, right? Like we still don't know. Like we know that there's diamond adventurers or diamond rank people, and so we know that, but we don't know like how many there are. We know there are not many of them, but we don't know how many there are. We don't know if things are set up differently in like different countries, or if there are different countries or continents, or like how it all works. So it's still just a whole lot we don't know, and so I'm pretty sure a lot of things will be fleshed out as we continue on with the story. But let me get through though.
Jason would have
And now that I'm thinking about it, I'll probably go live again tomorrow. I'm really getting through the story pretty quick though, just because I'm trying to get through some lives, because I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna go live at all Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and probably not Thursday either. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Yeah, so I'm not gonna go live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday because of me being on vacation. But like I said, I'm gonna do 2 hours today, and then tomorrow I'll probably do like another 2 hours or something like that. Maybe I might go 3. I don't know for sure. Tomorrow's gonna be a little busy, but yeah, but that's what's to expect. Expect another video tomorrow.
would have asked Hiram, but any attempt to talk would be futile over the sound of water. Hiram went to the side of the chamber, where Jason noticed a glazed window set into the wall.
All right, that's cool.
Through the
That's
window
cool.
was a second chamber.
Watch it later.
cut
There's no
deeper
big
into the
deal.
mountain. Inside, a young man in a comfortable chair
Although-
was giving them a wave.
Although I will say, I will say I do like being able to just kind of respond to some things or whatever, and give some opinions about some stuff and answer some questions or whatever. So, I always like doing that. But hey, you can just check it out later. It's no big deal. Or if you got a question about something, you can just leave a comment in the video or something. I'll respond to it.
There was a metal door next to the window, which Hiram opened and led Jason through. Beyond was a small antechamber, barely big enough to hold both men. A lamp was set firmly into the wall next to another metal door, which Hiram didn't open. With a door between them and the main chamber, the din from the water was greatly reduced. Jason noticed that there seemed to be some kind of seal around the door to keep the moisture out. "Just wait a moment," Hiram said. Jason looked about the tiny room, but there wasn't much to see. He spotted neat arrays of fingernail-sized holes in the floor and ceiling. As he was looking at them, hot, dry air blasted from them like a giant blow-dryer. "Close your eyes," Hiram shouted over the rushing air. "The air will dry them out." Jason did as instructed, waiting around half a minute as the air dried out his clothes and hair. "It draws the dry desert air from the other side of the mountain," Hiram explained, "with a little bit of magic to help it dry faster." When the air stopped,
That's
they were
cool.
both nice and dry. Hiram opened the next door and took them inside. There was a comfortable-looking chair in front of the window, a number of cupboards, and an overstuffed bookshelf. "Morning, boss," the young man said. "Who's your friend?" "This is Jason," Hiram said, dropping his backpack with a loud thud. "He's passing through with a group of adventurers and wanted to see the aperture. Jason, this is Griff." "Traveling with adventurers," Griff said enviously. "That must be exciting." "It has its moments," Jason said. They exchanged greetings and Griff made to leave. "Any idea when
So Marcin, I'm curious. So when you was reading the story, did you read the audio version of the book, or did you just kind of just read the actual physical book yourself? I'm wondering, which one do you prefer? Because me, I prefer the audio. I prefer to just be able to kind of listen and kind of go along with it and not really read too much. And plus, it's easier for what I do as far as my job and stuff. I read a text one online and use translator. So wait, what's your native language then? Because I'm guessing it's not English, right? So so the translator translated the text to whatever it is that you had used to read. Okay. I understand English. Polish. Oh, okay. So it's easier for you to translate it to Polish than to try to understand it with English. That makes sense. If you're not super fluent. And plus, listen, if you've been following my videos, I shit on the English language all of the time. Our language is trash. It doesn't make any sense. It got so many silent letters, words that mean the exact same thing, and then they got the same word, but they mean two different things or three different things. They got silent letters and all types of stupid ass shit in the English language. And I just I can't empathize with people when they try to learn English. It's gotta be one of the most difficult languages to learn just because of how confusing the language is. That's why I wish I grew up learning, well, I can't say that because once you understand English, then all the other languages should be easier to try to learn, right? Like I wanted to learn Japanese, and so you would figure Japanese would be easier to learn than it would be for a Japanese person trying to learn English, because English is so fucked up. So, man, English language is just, I don't get it. I really don't get it. They got words that's pronounced one way, but they don't spell the same way. It's just, they got sounds that's supposed to make one sound, but they change it and make a different sound. Like, it's not even consistent. It's just, like I said, English language, terrible. Absolutely terrible.
"When Duggan will be back, boss?" he asked. "I'm really looking forward to sleeping during the night again."
Exactly. There's no rules. You just do whatever the fuck you want. Whatever sound you wanted to make, it makes that sound. Like, it's just like, it's so dumb. It's really dumb. Like, the E sound makes the E, but then it can make the I sound. Like, but then I can make the I sound, but I can also make the E sound. Like, it's dumb. It's dumb. It's fucking dumb. Anyway, let me not rant too much. People who been following my channel know that I have my qualms with the English language. English language is just crazy. So can you understand what I'm playing good enough? I'm wondering about that. Can you understand the audiobook easy enough? But you know what this also is too? What's your native? It's English. Of course my native language is English. That's why I'm shitting on English, because I can shit on it because it's my language and this is what I grew up listening to. So I can shit on it all day because English is trash. But I wonder if maybe listening to this book or whatever, if it might help with your English language. You know? Maybe give you like some training and stuff. Cause I'll be trying to listen to like some Japanese stuff, but I only know like a few words when it comes to Japanese. But but yeah. But yeah.
His wife is still on the mend, Hiram said. Probably another month. Griff's shoulders slumped. Make it to the end of the week and I'll switch with you, Hiram said. Thanks, boss. Griff gave a weary smile and left. Jason looked out through the window as Hiram unloaded his backpack, stowing its contents in the cupboards. Ready for a closer look? Hiram asked when he was done. Jason grinned and Hiram led them back out. Leaving didn't trigger the drying mechanism again. It's set to go off when the outer door is opened first, Hiram explained.
I wish I could try to visualize this waterfall.
They walked carefully over wet stone to reach
it really seems pretty interesting.
They both grabbed a hold of the wet bars, which Jason noticed were engraved with magic symbols. As they were close to the torrent, water sprayed over them both, but Jason didn't mind. There was a feeling of refreshment that was more than just cool water on a hot morning. He felt like a child running under a lawn sprinkler on a hot day. Farah had told him there was magic in the water. Was that the cause of his strange reminiscence, or was he just homesick in a strange land? He craned his neck to try and see the actual source of the water, but it came from somewhere deeper in the mountain, where he couldn't see. As there was no way to talk over the noise, Hiram grabbed his shoulder to get his attention. Hiram pointed in the direction the water was flowing, and Jason spotted a tunnel on their side of the fence. The path and tunnel ran alongside the water, through which Jason could see daylight. He nodded at Hiram, and they started off in that direction. The tunnel went all the way to the outside of the mountain, where the water broke free to tumble down through the air. There was a chest-high railing to keep people from falling off. The view was breathtaking. Below them was the pool where the waterfall landed, and a channel flowing into the village lake. Beyond that lay the vast expanse of the desert. Jason was taking in the view when he noticed the noise of the water seemed to be dimming. At first, he thought it was his imagination, but then he saw Hiram looking at the water stream with a confused expression. They watched the avalanche of water rapidly diminish, as if someone was turning off a giant tap. The flow dropped down to nothing, leaving an empty tunnel carved out by the water as smooth as a machine-made pipe.
Huh.
Is that meant to happen?
Yeah,
Jason asked,
is that
in a
normal?
sudden silence. No, it isn't,
Uh-oh.
Hiram said, concern plain on his face.
Something's going on.
Has it ever done this before? No, it hasn't. Should we tell someone? It's a waterfall, son. I'm pretty sure everyone noticed. Hiram returned to the interior room, ignoring the warm blast of air to rush inside, still wet. He came back out with...
Oh, fuck. I shouldn't have done that. Come on, hold on. Alright.
key, unlocked the gate,
Come
and dropped
on.
down into the curved floor of the water tunnel.
Give me a second.
Comment.
There you go.
Jason immediately spotted the aperture, some 20... He came back out with a large... Hasn't. Should we tell someone? It's a waterfall, son. I'm pretty sure everyone noticed. Hiram
Yeah, the
returned to
waterfall
interior
fell.
room,
Or the
ignoring
waterfall
the warm
stopped.
blast of air to rush inside, still wet. He came back out with a large key, unlocked the gate, and dropped down into the curved floor of the water tunnel. Jason hesitated a moment before following. Hiram glanced at Jason, but didn't comment. Jason immediately spotted the aperture, some 20 meters down the pipe. It was a huge circle.
Right, because the waterfall is really important, so they definitely gotta... It definitely is gonna be strange the waterfall stops. It's always gonna be some fucked up shit, man. It's like, oh, he can't just go to some normal place. He gotta go to some place, and then, oh, all of a sudden, the waterfall turns off. Now we gotta investigate, figure out who turned off the waterfall, and how they even turn it off. And then once they find out, we're gonna find out that they did it all for some evil purpose. And then now he's gotta come in, he's gotta fight for the people to get the water back.
With a surface that shimmered with the same blue light the water had produced. Through the circle, he could make out what looked like a rainforest, but the distortion of the circle made it blurry and indistinct. Is that sky? Jason asked. Is there a whole world through there? Never actually been through to see, Hiram said. A large shape crawled into view through the aperture. It lumbered through the aperture and into the tunnel, like passing through a sheet of water. It had the body and head of a shark, but instead of skin, it had a plated shell in hues of dark purple and red. Emerging from its sides were 8 crab legs and a huge pair of pincers.
What the hell?
The creature was 3 meters long, and the pincers were bigger than Jason's head.
So he should be able to.
Do you see a lot of those?
So he should be able to determine whatever this creature is, what the rank should be, right? Because he can sense auras and stuff now. So he should be able to determine the rank.
Jason asked. No, Hiram said. That's new. New quest, Waterfall Monster. A monster has unexpectedly emerged from the local astral space. It has already entered the blind aggression stage and will attack anyone it encounters. Defeat it before it causes any harm. Objective, defeat the Shab, 0 of 1. Reward, Quintessence. I don't suppose you know what that thing is, Hiram?
Quintessence is a weak ass reward, though, right? I mean, we know it's useful for crafting, but like, he could have got some essence. So this monster must be pretty weak, though. If he's only getting quintessence, it must be pretty weak. But then now we can test out his powers, though. He got the dagger, so let's see him get some battle experience.
Hiram asked, drawing the knife on his belt. I think it's called a Shab. Jason drew the snake-toothed dagger at his own waist. You any good with that? Hiram asked. No, Jason said.
He said no.
I'm not.
He just said no. But he's about to get some experience, though. What's going on, bro? Why isn't it loading? No. I'm on chapter 27, and it doesn't want to load for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's my Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi is trash right now.
Chapter 27.
Okay.
Waterfall.
Waterfall.
It's pretty slow,
That's fine.
Jason said. If we get back behind the fence, is it strong enough to hold it? Not sure, Hiram said. It's mostly to keep out people. The magic is just to stop the water from ruining it, not make it any stronger. I guess we fight then, Jason said, reluctantly.
Okay.
I guess so,
Let's fight.
Hiram said, equally lacking in enthusiasm. The creature was moving up the tunnel, but at a lethargic pace. Its crab legs were better suited to sideways movement than forwards, so it was shuffling side to side as it approached. The back and forth motion was hampered by the curved sides
wake up
of the
midday.
pipe-like tunnel. Do you have any essences?
Well, you better
Jason
get some
asked.
sleep.
Is that what I've been feeling in your aura there?
Not sure if
What?
you're gonna be busy.
Hiram said. You're an adventurer. I thought the people with you were the adventurers. They are, Jason said. I have the essences, but they're very new.
You're
You
back.
can try them out here then.
I didn't know you
Hiram
left.
said. I guess you're in luck. Jason chuckled. That's exactly what I was thinking. How lucky I am to be here. The creature continued moving closer, its legs tapping on the stone as it slowly zigzagged up the tunnel. Any idea on how we should do it? Jason asked. I have a might essence, Hiram said. It makes me strong. If I tie up those pincers, think you can get around them and kill it? Jason looked at the
they're about to work
His
together.
knife wouldn't do much to the hard shell,
Okay.
but it was just right for digging into the segmented joints. Yeah, I think I can do that. Hiram looked at the knife in his hand and shoved it back into its sheath before striding down the tunnel. Jason followed behind, his own knife at the ready. As they drew closer, one of the pincers shot out and Hiram caught it in one hand. The stocky man and the creature struggled back and forth,
Oh,
but
shit.
Hiram didn't employ his second hand yet. He waited for the second pincer and grabbed that one too.
Oh, wow.
Hiram stood with hands over his head, a pincer gripped in each one. His arms swayed like branches in a storm, but his body was the tree's unmoving trunk. Seeing Hiram and the monster in a standoff, Jason knew it was time to act.
Right.
The sides of the round tunnel curved up, wet and smooth. Closest to flat was the middle of the tunnel, which was unfortunately full of monster. Jason had two options for getting behind it. One was trying to slip past on the
Shadow!
outside, risking the slippery walls.
Shadow teleport!
The other, more terrifying option was to crawl underneath the monster's body. Its crab legs emerged from either side of the body, leaving a large open space underneath. He ruled out crawling under the monster because it would involve crawling under a monster. Instead, he rushed forward, trying to half-slide along the side of pipe to get past the creature's legs. He failed immediately.
Oh my
His feet
God.
slipped out from under him, and he slid down into the creature's legs.
Listen, they're really about to make him. They're really about to make him just normal. I hope he don't take another L, man. I know, like, I understand trial and error, right? I understand that you gotta you gotta crawl before you can walk. You gotta walk before you can run. I understand all that stuff, but like his incompetence is just like damn. It's like I don't know. I don't know. Let me compare. Let's compare it to a sport like basketball, right? And it's just like, yeah, you go and you got to play basketball, and you know it's your first time playing basketball, but like I don't know. I guess if it's your first time playing, it makes sense that you're gonna be messing up all the time. But like you at least have like some deep, like at least you should be able to at least dribble, at least be able to move, at least be able to throw the ball up and try to get it into the net. But it's like he's never played before in his life. Same thing with fighting. It's like he's never fought before. He is like it's like he's never fought a day in his life. Like he's never been into a fight. He's never ran. He's never crawled. He's never done anything. I know he's new, but it's just like, man, he's got a lot to learn. He's got a long way to go. He's got a long way to go. But we'll see the journey though. We'll see the journey from when he can't do shit to when he's teaching other people how to survive.
It raised one of them, which Jason realized tapered into a point as it came down and stabbed into him. Jason cried out with pain.
Wait, this motherfucker got hit! He got hit!
He felt power surge out from deep inside his body, electric and exhilarating. It passed through his arm and into the dagger, filling the weapon with magic. Ability, Leech Bite, Blood. Special attack, Melee, Dragon.
Wait, hold on.
He felt
I missed.
power glide across the monster's leg, skittering over the hard shell until it found a vulnerable joint.
Okay.
The knife slotted right in between the plates of shell, and he sliced the edge across the cartilage.
Okay, that's
As the
good.
dagger cut into flesh, he used one of his abilities. He felt power surge out from deep inside his body, electric and exhilarating. It passed through his arm and into the dagger, filling the weapon with magic. Ability, Leech Bite, Blood. Special attack, Melee, Drain, Wounding, Blood. Cost, low stamina, cooldown.
Fucking ad. Fucking ad.
None. Current rank, Iron 0. 0%. Effect, Iron.
Okay, so Leech. Okay, so Leech uses. It won't be that spoiler. Okay. Okay, I'll check it out. I'll check it out here in a little bit. Probably after this chapter, I'll check it out. But what was I gonna say? So his ability, his Leech ability, only uses low stamina, and so this is good. This is good.
Ability, Leech Bite, Blood. Special attack, Melee, Drain, Wounding, Blood. Cost, low stamina, cooldown, none. Current rank, Iron 0. 0%. Effect, Iron. Inflicts or refreshes the bleeding condition. Drains a small amount of health and stamina when refreshing the bleeding condition. Bleeding. Affliction. Wounding. Blood. Deals ongoing damage by causing or increasing blood loss. As a wounding effect, this condition absorbs and negates an amount of incoming healing, after which this affliction immediately ends. As Jason yanked the knife free, blood sprayed out of the joint. The monster raised its leg sharply, pulling it free of Jason while releasing a high-pitched alien shriek.
Okay.
Along with Jason's power, the magic of his snake-toothed dagger did its own work. Weapon, Nightfang, has inflicted umbral snake venom on Shab.
Poison.
Jason
Okay.
scrambled to escape.
So this
his
is
legs, as one
good
of them-
though. This is really good. So not only was he able to cause the crab to bleed, and I think he absorbed some of the blood too to recover some of his stamina and his health. But then also the dagger also has poison, so he got poison him and he's bleeding it. So this is good. This is actually really good.
As one of them rose up, poised to stab him again. He found himself directly underneath the creature, lying on his back. In front of him was the creature's underbelly, which turned out to be fleshy and unprotected by shell. Jason called up the power within him again, raking the vulnerable underside of the monster with his dagger.
Okay.
Ability, Punish, Sin. Special attack, Melee, Curse. Cost, low mana. Cooldown, none. Current rank, Iron 0. 0%. Effect, Iron.
Curse.
Inflicts necrotic damage and the Sin, Affliction. Sin, Affliction, Curse, stacking. All necrotic damage taken is increased. Additional instances have a cumulative effect. Blood and...
Okay, so curse. Okay, so he has the curse. So curse, the sin attack. So it seems like once you attack, it makes all neurotic damage more impactful. So if he does any more neurotic damage, it's going to be even more powerful because it's already cursed. So basically, he has like a vulnerability to neurotic damage at this point. These are really like debuffs and buffs, or not buffs, but debuffs.
Effect, Iron, inflicts necrotic damage and the Sin, affliction. Sin, affliction, curse, stacking. All necrotic damage taken is increased. Additional
So
instances have a
sin,
cumulative
sin
effect.
affliction. Okay.
Blood and other fluids splashed over Jason from the long wound, leaving him sputtering salty fluid as he shimmied on his back to behind the creature.
Okay.
The monster itself went wild at the wound to its underside, breaking its pincers out of Hiram's grip and flailing about with more high-pitched shrieking.
Wow.
One of the monster's legs impaled Jason's leg by accident as the creature thrashed about.
Damn.
It didn't seem to notice, yanking its leg back out again. Jason turned himself over and crawled painfully away, still spitting out monster juice. After getting free of the maddened monster, Jason looked back to see Hiram doing his best to hold the creature's attention, both arms wrapped around one of the pincers. Without getting up, Jason held out a hand towards the creature and chanted out a spell. Your fate is to suffer. There was no visible effect, but Jason felt the power surge out of him.
What is this power?
Ability, inexorable doom. Doom. Spell, curse. Cost, moderate mana. Cooldown, none. Current rank, Iron 0.
Okay, so I gotta try to remember this shit. See, this is gonna be hard to remember. Okay, so Leech only requires low stamina, and then the Sin curse requires low mana, and then now he just used the Doom, and it requires moderate mana. So how much mana does he have left though? Exactly. As long as he can avoid getting hit and getting like damaged, then this is a really good way to kill monsters. Because he just needs to do a better job of not getting injured. But even if he does get injured though, he still got the leech skill so he can get the blood from the monster and heal himself, so he's good no matter what.
Jason felt the power surge out of him to enact itself upon the creature. Ability, inexorable doom.
Inexorable doom.
Spell, curse. Cost, moderate mana.
Okay.
Cooldown, none. Current rank, Iron 0, 0%. Effect, Iron. Periodically applies an additional instance of each stacking curse, disease, poison, or unholy affliction the target is suffering from. This is a curse effect. This effect cannot be cleansed while any other curse or disease, poison, or unholy affliction is in effect. Jason forced himself to his feet.
Oh wait, so what does that mean? What does that mean? So, okay, so you can't remove it when there's another curse. Let me go back. I gotta go back and listen to the explanation.
Disease, poison, or unholy affliction the target is suffering. Moderate mana. Cooldown, none. Current rank, Iron 0, 0%. Effect, Iron. Periodically applies an additional instance of each stacking curse, disease, poison.
Periodically additional instant. So whatever curse he has, it applies another curse. So, but how would that match with the fucking curse that gives neurotic, what is it called, neurotic vulnerability or whatever? So he needs to do something. He needs to have an ability that does neurotic damage, because let's say, for example, you're 2 times susceptible to neurotic damage because of his first curse, right? His sin curse. But then now he used the doom curse, so now it adds an additional stack. So it's probably now 4 times vulnerability to neurotic damage. So then after that, that means that he's even more vulnerable to neurotic damage. But does it do a stack for the leeching ability as well? Like, does it leech more blood from him? I don't know.
Spell, curse. Cost, moderate mana. Cooldown, none. Current rank, Iron 0, 0%. Effect, Iron. Periodically applies an additional instance of each stacking.
Wait, let me see what you're saying. If I understand correctly, it's like if the target has 2 poisons after the spell, he has. Yeah, exactly, 4 poisons, right? But he doesn't have poisons. But I get the examples you made. It's like it's vulnerable to necrotic damage. So does it also apply to the blood too, to the leech skill? So right now the crab is bleeding. So does it apply, double the bleeding for the spell also?
Stacking curse, disease, poison, or unholy affliction the target is suffering.
Curse, poison, and it works with the poison too, because he got the poison daggers, or the poison dagger is delivering poison. It also stacks that poison too. Okay, so it does do it for the leech. Okay. See, this is exactly why they were right when they said that you need to get all your essences first, and then you need to get the ability so that way they're more synchronized, and they kind of complement each other. So yeah, so now it's making more sense.
Is suffering from. This is a curse effect. This effect cannot be cleansed, while any other curse or disease, poison, or unholy affliction is in effect. Jason forced himself to his feet, ignoring the pain from his stabbed leg and abdomen as he limped farther from the creature. Hiram! Jason yelled past the creature. Let it go and back off. It'll die on its own. On the long wagon ride through the desert, Jason had spent hours going over his abilities, discussing with the others how to use them. Except Anissa, who refused to help him use his unclean powers.
Of course
The
not.
time spent strategizing proved its worth now. He knew how to withdraw and let the afflictions to do their work. It was obvious when considering things calmly beforehand, but in the heat of the moment, he may well have kept attacking, putting himself and Hiram at unnecessary risk. Jason's first special attack had inflicted the bleeding affliction. This was effectively a powerful anticoagulant, making blood loss all the worse.
Right.
The second special attack inflicted a curse called Sin that increased any necrotic damage that was suffered.
Right.
The dagger inflicted a necrotic poison, which was amplified by the curse. Finally, Jason's spell would continue.
Oh, so the poison is considered necrotic damage. Okay, that makes sense. Actually, that makes sense. That makes sense. So yeah, so not only does he have the poison, or not only does he have the bleeding, but he has like double the damage from the poison. But then he also got the other spell, the Doom spell. So now he got like quadruple the damage from the poison.
Anticoagulant, making blood loss all the worse. The second special attack inflicted a curse called Sin that increased any necrotic damage that was suffered. The dagger inflicted a necrotic poison, which was amplified by the curse. Finally, Jason's spell would continually stack up both the poison and curse, increasing their effect. The result of all this was an exponentially escalating necrosis that would inevitably overcome the creature. All they had to do was wait. Jason and Hiram backed off, while the monster between them thrashed about. Dark fluid started oozing from its joints.
That's
and staggered
crazy.
Hiram, but soon it collapsed, the dying flesh in its legs unable to hold the creature's weight.
That's crazy. Like, you just do like a couple hits, and then all you gotta do is just sit back and watch, eat a sandwich, while that thing just slowly just dies and kills itself. Like, that's crazy as hell, man. And we still don't know what the leeches do either, because the leeches like combine with his blood or some shit like that. So we still don't even know what that really does to him either. We don't have any measurements. What is exactly one poison stack or etc. This first. Oh, the first fight. Okay, I got you. Yeah, so I mean, they basically explained it. So it doesn't seem like the poison stacks, or not the poison. It doesn't seem like the bleeding stacks, but it seems like the poison stacks. So the poison stacks with the curse, but I don't think the bleeding stacks. Because let me go back and listen to it again, because he kind of explained it.
By the curse. Finally, Jason's spell would continually stack coagulant, making blood loss all the worse.
Right.
The second special attack inflicted a curse called Sin that increased any necrotic damage that was suffered.
Increased
the
necrotic
dagger
damage.
inflicted a necrotic poison, which was amplified by the curse.
Right.
Finally, Jason's spell would continually stack up both the poison and curse, increasing their effect. The result of all this was an exponentially escalating necrosis that would inevitably overcome the creature. All they had to do was wait.
Yeah.
Jason
Yeah.
and Hiram backed off, while the monster between them thrashed about. Dark fluid started oozing from its joints.
So based off of what he explained, it doesn't seem like the bleeding effect got amplified by the curse. Only the poison got amplified by the curse, based off of what you just explained.
As it staggered towards Hiram, but soon it collapsed, the dying flesh in its legs unable to hold the creature's weight. The pincers lifted up weakly in a last gesture of defiance before falling still. You have defeated Shab. Quest, Waterfall Monster. Objective complete. Defeat Shab, 1 of 1. 50 water quintessence gems have been added to your inventory.
50?
Quest complete. 100 iron rank spirit coins
Oh,
have been
wow.
added to your inventory. Jason was happy with how his abilities worked out, although he had one major concern. He was reliant on necrotic damage for his abilities to take full effect, and his only current source of that damage was not his abilities, but his magic dagger. The others assured him that he would get such a power, but until then, he would be reliant on an external tool.
Right.
Hiram and Jason cautiously approached the creature from either side. Jason had 2 painful wounds, and he could see an injury on Hiram's arm. Hiram stood over the creature, cradling his bleeding arm. What did you do to it?
So what are you saying? I think it would, but I mean, we don't have any unit. That's that poison. Right. We don't know how much damage the poison did, though. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure on that though.
Hiram asked. The monster was oozing black fluid from under its shell, which gave off a horrifying stench. I wasn't confident about.
I wonder if he can do the leech. He should be able to leech the blood from the creature, and he should be. So not only does he get the 50 quintessence, he also got the 100 iron tokens or whatever, the iron coins. But then he also should be able to leech the blood from the creature, and then he also on top of that should be able to loot from the creature too. So he's basically hitting the jackpot. Like every time he kills something, he gets a reward from the quest.
About cracking that shell, Jason said.
What the hell?
So I killed it from the inside out.
Okay, there you go.
Jason held a hand over the creature and chanted a spell.
So what I was saying was that he gets a reward from finishing the quest, and then he also gets blood from. He gets healing from the blood from the animal or from the creature that he kills, and then he also gets stuff from looting the creature too. So he gets like triple the benefits.
As your life was mine to reap, your death is mine to harvest. Ability: Blood Harvest. Blood. Spell: Drain. Cost: Low mana. Cooldown: None. Current rank: Iron 0.
Wait.
0%.
So this is different.
Your death.
So this is different. So he had the leech ability. The leech ability bled him out, right? So the drain is different. Okay, so the drain is different from the leech.
Mine to harvest. Ability: Blood Harvest. Said. So I killed it from the inside out. Jason held a hand over the creature and chanted a spell. As your life was mine to reap, your death is mine to harvest. Ability: Blood Harvest. Blood. Spell: Drain. Cost: Low mana. Cooldown: None. Current rank: Iron 0. 0%. Iron. Drain the remnant life force of a recently deceased body, replenishing health, stamina, and mana. Only affects targets with blood. Dark red.
So even though the ability uses mana, he also heals health, he heals stamina, and he heals mana too. So he can spam this shit because his mana gets healed. When he I wonder how much though.
Red light rose from within the creature. Jason's aura sense told him it was the monster's remnant life force made visible. It siphoned up into Jason's hand, draining away from the dead monster. As it did, Jason felt the sting of healing flesh as his wounds closed over. His body was reinvigorated as his stamina and mana were replenished. As he consumed the red light, the flesh inside the shell withered, the shell itself growing brittle and crumbling. By the time the red light was fully devoured, the monster was little more than a withered husk. Hiram had been looking askance at Jason as he recited sinister spells and drained the residual life force from the monster. Did you just say you were harvesting death?
That's cool.
Hiram asked.
That's cool.
It's just the incantation for a spell, Jason said. You sound like an evil farmer.
What?
You didn't even see my evil trowel. Jason pulled a rag and a bottle of water from his inventory, cleaning his dagger before slipping it back into its sheath. Then he tapped a finger on the gutted shell of the monster. Would you like to loot Shab? You might want to stand back for this, Jason said. There's going to be a smell. Worse than the one that's there already? Hiram asked. Yeah, it's worse. They backed off and Jason gave his mental assent to loot the body. What was left of the monster rapidly dissolved into rainbow-colored smoke before vanishing. Tragically, Jason had forgotten the monster fluids that had splattered onto him while he was underneath it. They too dissolved, the rainbow smoke coming from his nose and mouth where the fluids had splashed into them. He fell to the ground, heaving his breakfast onto the base of the tunnel.
Oh my god.
You alright? Hiram asked. Eventually, Jason gave a coughing nod. Monster Core, Iron Rank, has been added to your inventory. Shell Skin Potion has been added to your inventory. 10 Iron Rank Spirit Coins have been added to your inventory. Not worth it. Jason took a tin of healing unguent from his inventory and handed it over to Hiram. You know what that is? Jason asked. Hiram pulled the lid off the tin, sniffing at the contents. He nodded and immediately started rubbing ointment into his bloody arm. Boss, Griff called out from the other side of the fence. I came back when I couldn't see or hear the waterfall. What happened?
So he got a healing potion.
No idea.
And then
Hiram
he got
said,
some
still rubbing ointment on his
crafting
arm.
materials.
I imagine people are coming up here to check on things, but I'm not sure what they'll accomplish. I think we might need to bring in those adventurers of yours, Jason. I was thinking the same thing, Jason said, without turning to face the others. His gaze was focused on where the tunnel went deeper into the mountain. Is it just me? He asked. Or is the aperture more blue than it was before? Hiram followed Jason's gaze down the tunnel. The blue shimmer of the aperture was definitely brighter than it had been before. I think, Hiram said, it might be time to get out of... He was cut off by a wall of water, erupting through the aperture and down on top of them. It smashed them together in a tangle of arms and legs. Both were blasted down the tunnel and hurled into the air, hundreds of meters above the ground.
Oh, wow. 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 So it's not over yet. We still got more stuff.
Chapter 28. How did you all fit in there? Water crashed into Jason like a...
Tate, this is an audiobook. Audiobook. So it's not AI. I mean, you should be able to tell from the way it sounds, right? I mean, it don't sound like an AI. Sounds like... It doesn't sound like AI. It sounds like somebody's actually reading it.
A derailed train, plowing him straight into Hiram and blasting them both out the end of the tunnel. Sensations came faster than he could process. Pain, wet, disorientation. He couldn't breathe or even tell which way was up. Jason and Hiram had clutched onto each other reflexively.
Oh yeah, I did say I was going to check that. So let me check that really quick. Let me check. So what, did you draw? Did you draw it? Okay. All right, so you got some red leather. Okay, I see some sword. Is that the sword? Is that the spoiler? Is that the spoiler? That sword, it got some type of Chinese markings on there. Right? He got the cloak. The cloak is cool though. I like the cloak. The cloak looks dope. Now his leather little outfit that he got though, it's kind of reminds me of blood. So maybe it's like some blood armor. I'm guessing he got blood armor. And I see the eyes though. The eyes look kind of evil, bro. The eyes looking evil as hell. But wait, this is a spoiler. He not supposed to have no hair. He got a whole beard. He got a whole head of hair and everything. See, this is some spoiling type of shit, bro. But no, but he looks cool though. He looks cool. I really like the cloak. I like the cloak the best. You did. I'm guessing you said you created this, right? To get that hair grown back. But I like the cloak the best. The cloak looks dope. I like that cloak. If they had that cloak on sale, I'll probably buy it. But that's cool though.
Their limbs tangled together, both out the end of the tunnel. Sensations came faster than he could process. Pain, wet, disorientation. He couldn't breathe or even tell which way was up. Jason and Hiram had clutched onto each other reflexively, their limbs tangled together. Landscape blurred past as they span through the air, tumbling like the now resumed waterfall. Jason's first coherent thought was Hiram slipping away, and he reasserted his grip. Darkness emerged from Jason, enveloping both men. Extending the weight-reducing function of Cloak of Night increases the cost from low mana per second to moderate mana per second.
Wait, I'm not paying attention.
The downward plunge was reduced grip. Darkness emerged from Jason, enveloping both men. Extending the weight-reducing function, tumbling like the now resumed waterfall. Jason's first coherent thought was Hiram slipping away, and he reasserted his grip. Darkness emerged from Jason, enveloping both men. Extending the weight-reducing function of Cloak of Night increases the cost from low mana per second to moderate mana per second.
So that's cool. So he just extended the weightlessness of the cloak to the two guys that got blown off. That's dope. And so that was it seemed like that was instinctual.
The downward plunge was reduced to a drift, floating out and away from the waterfall. Their wild spinning was arrested, and they were able to orient themselves as they descended. Jason was grateful that his cloak could be conjured at a thought. If it had required an incantation like a spell, he doubted he would have been able to get the words out.
Right.
Only now that they were free of the water and gently drifting could they even speak intelligibly.
Right.
What in the gods' merry garden is going on?
That's
Hiram
cool.
asked,
That's cool as
voice tinged
shit.
with panic. He was half hugging Jason from the side. The first thing you should know, Jason said, is to not let go. Hiram lurched as he looked down, almost letting go. What did I just say? Jason asked. We're in the sky. Awesome, right? Are you insane? That was right in my ear. Jason started laughing madly as they drifted down to the ground. This is fantastic, he said.
That's cool
You're
as shit.
crazy.
That's cool.
Between the force with which they were ejected from the mountain and the lightness of their reduced weight, they had drifted some way from the mountain before they lightly touched down. They landed close to the channel.
Wait, here's my thing. Why are they bitching at him talking about how he's crazy when he literally just saved their lives from being squashed like fucking bugs? They literally flew and they would have landed on the ground and had at least some broken bones or something. And he literally saved them from excruciating pain. And they're acting like they're just like, oh, why would you do this? This is crazy. That shit don't even make sense. So the next live, are you talking about the next live for this story, or are you talking about the next live for T-Bait? Because the next live for T-Bait would probably be Friday or Saturday. The next live for this will be tomorrow. So you can catch it tomorrow. But if this is your first time reading the story tape, though, go back and follow along with the first video that I had made, and you can just kind of follow along with it. And then I'm gonna do a part, because this part 4. I'll do a part 5 tomorrow. So that's when I'll do it again. But yeah, they seem like they're some ungrateful assholes right now.
You're crazy. Between the force with which they were ejected from the mountain and the lightness of their reduced weight, they had drifted some way from the mountain before they lightly touched down. They landed close to the channel leading from the pool under the mountain to the village lake. Hiram immediately fell to the grass and hugged the ground, tension escaping his body in sobbing laughs. Jason took a look around.
The story's slow. I'll say this to you, Tate. The story's slow, but you slowly start to get into it. Like as the main character, Jason, learns more about the environment, how everything works, you're gonna learn about it too. So yeah, it should be cool. You should like it though. I mean, I'm enjoying it right now. So.
Round. They were about halfway between the mountain and the village, in an expanse of shin-high grass. The channel ran dead straight through the grass from the base of the waterfall to the village. He could see people heading for the mountain trail he and Hiram had taken earlier. None of them seemed to have noticed his and Hiram's descent. On the other side of the channel were a bunch of children who had been looking up at the absent waterfall until they spotted Jason and Hiram fall from the sky. Jason gave them a wave. He then looked back up at the mountain and saw how far he had just fallen. A grin spread across his face. If this is the adventuring life, he mused, I think I want some more. You're a crazy person.
Okay.
Hiram said,
He's getting that adrenaline hype.
He looked uncertainly at Jason, still shrouded in the cloak of stars. Under the desert sun, the void black stood out more than the starlight. Hiram, Jason said, still looking up at the mountain. Are they what I think they are? Hiram followed Jason's line of sight to the top of the waterfall. He spotted objects being tossed out the same way he and Hiram had been, at least a dozen of them.
What?
People? Hiram asked. They were distant and hard to make out as they fell. Those aren't people, Jason said. As they fell from the sky, the objects grew larger in their vision. Horror crossed Hiram's face as he recognized the shape of the creatures.
What?
More of those things.
More crabs?
With horror.
Oh.
Don't be too worried, Jason said. A shab is a half shark, half crab, neither of which have wings. The large creatures lacked Jason's weight-reducing power and fell well short of the distance Jason and Hiram had reached. The first one hit the ground with a sickening crunch, with others soon following. Jason counted 17 by the time...
But listen though, if 17 of those things, they fail and they die, he should be able to loot all their bodies.
They finished falling, most of which died on impact. Those that fell either side of the water channel hit the ground and didn't get up. Of the 6 that landed in the water, 2 struck the surface at a bad angle. Hitting water flat from that height was as good as hitting solid concrete, with similar results. The other 4 survived, but were clearly injured as they staggered out of the water. New quest, protect the village. A number of shabs have emerged from the astral space. Intercept them before they wreak havoc in the village.
Okay.
Objective, defeat shab, 0 of 4. Reward, iron rank, uncommon, magic bracelet. One of the monsters had
magic bracelet?
Side of
oh
the
shit!
The others on the far
you can get magic
they
bracelets.
Looked about, disoriented, then made a straight line for the village. The sideways walk of the creature.
So that means you also get magic rings, magic headbands, a magic belt, a magic cape, magic glasses.
Wasn't a breakneck pace, but was faster than what Jason had seen from the one in the tunnel. What do you think, Hiram? Jason asked. Hiram's face was stern as he stared at the creature on their side of the channel. It looked to have at least 2 broken legs, and the shell around its body was cracked and oozing. I think I can take one, he said, if it's injured. But what about those kids on the other side? I'll get the kids away, Jason said. Then I'll deal with the other shabs. Are you up for that? Hiram asked. I guess I'll have to be, Jason said, flashing Hiram a grin. Don't worry, I've still got a gimmick or two. Jason started sprinting towards the channel. It was a natural waterway, 30 or so meters across. Jason leapt off the short embankment, landing on the gently flowing surface of the water as if it was solid ground. He laughed with delight as he sprinted over the surface.
That's cool.
He
Walking
ducked down
on
briefly as one
water.
of the dead shabs floated past, long enough to brush his fingers over its shell. This monster corpse is unclaimed. Would you like to loot shab? Jason kept moving as he looted the body, rainbow smoke rising behind him. 1 monster core, iron rank, has been added to your inventory. 10 water quintessence have been added to your inventory. 10 iron spirit coins have been added to your inventory. He recalled an odd potion he had looted from the first shab. After climbing onto the grass on the opposite embankment, he pulled it out of his inventory. Item, shell skin potion, iron rank, uncommon. Potion that increases the hardness of skin at the cost of agility. Consumable, natural. Effect, skin is hardened against physical attack, and speed, attribute, is decreased for 10 minutes. Uses remaining 1 of 1. The kids, 5 of them, came running up to Jason with the fearlessness of children.
See, I don't think that potion is actually a good thing to get because of the fact that it reduces his speed, but it also increases his defense. But it seems to me like he doesn't have a hard time trying to heal if he gets hurt. I think he needs his speed more than anything to try to like dodge, to be able to get in quickly for attacks and stuff like that. So I don't think it'd be a good idea to take that potion because he doesn't really need to have his defense increase. He really needs to have more maneuverability in order to move around and avoid attacks and get in close and then attack. So to me, it don't make sense to use the potion. But what did you say? Asian food, it's just food. Right. I get what you're saying. Because yeah, that's actually kind of funny though. It's like eating like you said, Asian food, and then you're in Asia, it's like we're just eating food. Like it's just. But they still consider. But even Asians here in America, they still consider Asian food. They don't consider it to be like just regular food. You know, it's like eating Mexican food. Like, oh, I got some Mexican food. Even if you're in Mexico, it's still like Mexican food because like it's your culture, right?
Is hardened against physical attack, and speed, attribute, is decreased for 10 minutes. Uses remaining 1 of 1. The kids, 5 of them, came running up to Jason with the fearlessness of children. Are those things monsters? One of them asked. Yes, Jason told them. You need to run back to the village. Are you going to fight them? Yes, you need to run back to the village.
Right.
Can we watch?
They try to watch!
And drop down to one knee.
You need to run back to the village, dumb kid.
For you. I need you to go back to the village and warn everyone about the monsters. He took 5 iron rank spirit coins from his inventory, holding them in front of the children. This is a very important job, he told them solemnly, and I need some brave junior adventurers to help me. Do you think you can help? Jason smiled at the 5 eagerly nodding heads, handing them each a coin. Hurry up now, he told them. Warn everyone.
That's smart. Incentive to do what he said by giving them the coins. So, hey, that's more about his personality. Like he's not the type of person who's going to yell or whatever. He knows when to be kind of like, you know, soft, and he knows when to kind of, I guess like motivate somebody to do something that he wants to, motivate a child, I should say, to do what he wants to do. So he like how somebody else might handle that and they'd be like, all right, you won't go, I'm going to just teleport you back to the town or some shit like that because you won't listen. Or they yell at them and say, get out back to town before you get killed or something like that, you know? So he decided to try to motivate them gently to like, I got a task for you to do. Go to the town, warn the people, and I'm going to give you some coins to help you. So that's more about his personality. So that's cool. That's cool. I'm liking that.
Everyone fast as you can. As the kids sprinted away, Jason turned to look at the 3 shabs that were scurrying alongside the channel in his direction. They had emerged from the water much closer to the mountain than where Jason had landed, placing him comfortably between them and the village. Why didn't you stay in the water? He wondered. Did getting belted down here by water give you a complex? Their sideways crab walk was faster than they could manage moving forwards, but their injuries were slowing them down. Jason looked at the potion in his hand, which would slow him down as well. He wasn't skilled enough that the extra agility would do him any good, so he drank it. You have used a defense potion, hardening your skin and reducing your
Wait,
speed
this don't make
attribute.
any sense. Why would
Jason looked at the potion in his hand, which would slow him down as well. He wasn't skilled enough that the extra agility would do him any good, so he drank it.
Oh, so he's saying that the agility won't do him any good because he's not skilled with it. Okay. I guess that kind of makes sense. But I get your joke, though. I get your joke about with Arthur because he definitely wouldn't be doing that.
You have used a defense potion, hardening your skin and reducing your speed attribute. Until the remnant magic fully dissipates, consuming further defense potions will result in toxic side effects. He could feel his skin tightening, like he'd left it too long in the dryer. It felt like old leather as he flexed,
That's
restrictive
crazy.
but tough. He looked at the approaching creatures, wondering about the range of his spell. He could feel his abilities instinctively, realizing that anything he could clearly see was a viable target. He fixed his gaze on each monster,
Shadow?
changing a spell for each. Your fate is to suffer. The inexorable doom spell would add more and more of any stacking effect on the victim. The Shabs didn't have any on them yet, but Jason would change that as soon as they caught up with him. He drew his dagger. He ran the blade across the back of his forearm, but it didn't draw blood. He realized he should have done it before drinking the potion. He gripped the blade tightly in his fist and yanked it out, this time managing a shallow cut on his palm. Weapon, Nightfang, has inflicted umbral snake venom on out.
Right. What the hell is he doing? He's trying to poison himself? I'm so confused.
He realized he should have done it before drinking the potion. He gripped the blade tightly in his fist and yanked it out, this time managing a shallow cut on his palm. Weapon, Nightfang, has inflicted umbral snake venom on Outworlder. You have resisted umbral snake venom. Umbral snake venom does not take effect. You have gained an instance of resistant. Jason swore, having forgotten that his dagger was poisonous. Luckily, it didn't take effect.
How the fuck, bruh? How do you bruh, L? That is a complete L, man. How you forget that your own dagger is poisonous and you just luckily have resistance? Like, bruh, oh my god, yo. That is crazy. This motherfucker just forgot that his knife was poisonous. That is L. Remember, he had one L at first, and then he had two L's, and then he defeated. What did he defeat? He defeated something, and then he took away one of the L's, and then now he got another L. So he's got two L's again. Okay, he beat the crab, so I guess we take away one L for that. So he's back to one L, bro. That is terrible. That shit is horrible. That's embarrassing.
Representing the resistant buff next to his mana and stamina. Umbral snake venom does not take effect. You have gained an instance of resistant. Jason swore, having forgotten that his dagger was poisonous. Luckily, it didn't take effect. There was now an icon representing the resistant buff next to his mana and stamina bars. Not that I want to complain, but why didn't the poison work?
Right.
Combat log. You have been afflicted with Iron Rank Poison, Umbral Snake Venom. Ability, Sin Eater, gives you increased resistance to all afflictions. You have resisted Umbral Snake Venom. Resisting an affliction has triggered ability, Sin Eater, granting you an instance of resistant. Sin Eater was one of the abilities Jason had awakened from a feast stone.
Okay. So Sin Eater gives him the ability to resist poisons. And then when he got the poison, he gained, I guess, more resistance because of the Sin Eater ability. So, okay. Let me go back and reread it again.
Resistance to all afflictions. You have resisted Umbral Snake Venom. Resisting an affliction has triggered ability, Sin Eater, granting you an instance of resistant. Sin Eater was one of the abilities Jason had awakened from a feast stone. Most of his planning and discussion involved his active abilities, while this passive power went largely overlooked. The sluggish pace of the injured Shabs meant they were still some...
But here's my thing, though. What was his point? What was the reason why he needed to cut himself in the first place? Like, I'm guessing he needed his blood, but what do you need his blood for?
Distance from him, so he had time to pull up the description. A beast stone. Most of his planning and discussion involved his active abilities, while this passive power went largely overlooked. The sluggish pace of the injured Shabs meant they were still some distance from him, so he had time to pull up the description. Ability, Sin Eater, Sin. Special ability, Holy. Cost, none. Cooldown, none. Current rank, Iron, 0, 0%. Effect, Iron. Increase resistance to afflictions. Gain an instance of Resistant each time you resist an affliction or cleanse an affliction using essence abilities. Resistant, Boon, Holy, Stacking. Resistance to afflictions is increased. Additional instances have a cumulative effect. Consumed to negate instances of Vulnerable on a 1-1 basis.
Wait, consume to negate instances of vulnerable on a 1-to-1 basis. So basically, if he keeps stabbing himself with poison, his resistance buff is just going to continue to multiply. So does it go away?
Resistant, Boon, Holy, Stacking. Resistance to afflictions is increased. Additional instances have a cumulative effect. Consumed to negate instances of Vulnerable on a 1-1 basis. Not bad, he said. It's a holy power too, from the Sin essence no less. Jason glanced down at his hand, which had a line of blood but the wound had closed. The healing his familiar provided couldn't swiftly regenerate the kind of impaling wounds he took from the Shab, although thinking back, it may not have been pure adrenaline that kept him moving. A little cut on the hand, though, the familiar made short work of. Oh, come on. He put his dagger in hand and yanked it free again, reopening the wound. Weapon, Nightfang, has inflicted Umbral Snake Venom on Outworlder. You have resisted Umbral Snake Venom. Umbral Snake Venom does not take effect. You have gained an insistence of Resistant. I'm liking this ability, he said, as the number 2 appeared on the resistant icon.
That's crazy.
He held his hand out, wounded palm pointed at the ground. Leeches started pouring out, like water from the world's most terrifying shower.
Wait, what?
By the time the pile was finished, the total volume of leeches was more than his entire body.
Wait. So the leeches are still in his body. And so he cut himself and he let the leeches go. That's new, man. That shit is new. That's crazy. That is wild as hell. So he can stack it, right? So does it ever go away? Or does it just continue to stack to where he can be like plus 100 resistance and then this motherfucker can get attacked by some gold level poison and it don't do anything because of how high his resistance is? That is, man, he's looking to be super powerful in the future, man. That's crazy. And then the leeches, what he's doing with the leeches now? I wonder what he's about to do with these leeches.
How did you all fit in there? The pile had no way to respond. Jason intrinsically understood the nature of the familiar and knew there wasn't anything like telepathic communication. He would have to command them verbally, although he wasn't sure how that worked. Do leeches have ears? The pile said nothing. We'll have to work out a system. Chapter 29. That's what adventurers do.
29, okay.
The Shabs were finally drawing close. Din Din's Leechy, Jason told the pile. It undulated slowly in the direction of the Shabs. I've got to come up with a better name.
Okay.
The approaching Shabs hadn't regrouped after their fall from the sky, so were coming at Jason individually. The first one gave up its side shuffling when it spotted Jason, turning its shark head to face him. He had time to take a good look at the creature. A shark in a purple and red shell, with legs halfway between a spider and a crab. Above the mouthful of jagged teeth, it had tiny crayfish eyes, black orbs waving back and forth on short stalks. You certainly are creepy. As the first Shab approached, it seemed to lock onto the leech pile in its path. It lunged with both pincers, which dug into the pile with little effect. Instead, the pile slithered over the pincers and up the arms. It started shaking its arms to get them off. Some were tossed away, others crawling over the shell in search of the gaps hiding vulnerable flesh.
Wait.
The remaining pile made for the creature's legs.
Are they gonna
up and over
bleed him out?
Some leeches were squished between sections of shell, but more and more found something soft to sink their teeth into. The monster started shrieking. Sanguine Horror has inflicted bleeding on Shab.
Bruh!
Horror has inflicted...
He inflicted bleeding from a distance using the leeches. That, okay, all right. That is... Okay, that's cool. And then they also crawled into the little crevices to where it wasn't no shell. And then because he already cursed them, so they already gonna get the double effect of the bleeding, right? Because of the curse. That's dope. That's dope as hell.
Leech toxin on Shab. Sanguine Horror has inflicted necrotoxin on Shab.
Oh!
Bleeding already in effect. Bleeding is refreshed. Sanguine Horror has inflicted leech toxin on Shab. Sanguine Horror has inflicted necrotoxin on Shab. The notifications came thick and fast as every...
Wait, so you got a leech toxin, and then you got a necrotoxin? And they got bleeding, so that's 3 effects?
toxin on Shab. Bleeding already in effect.
Bleeding
is refreshed. Sanguine Horror has inflicted leech toxin
Leech
on Shab.
toxin?
Sanguine Horror has inflicted necrotoxin on Shab.
Necrotoxin.
The notifications came thick and fast as every leech that found purchase delivered the same bleed effects Jason used, plus 2 different kinds of poison.
Wow.
Leech toxin, affliction, poison, blood, stacking. When bleeding is negated, an instance of leech toxin on the target is consumed to reapply bleeding. Additional instances can be accumulated. On top of inflicting damage through blood loss, the strength of the bleeding affliction was that it soaked up healing, negating its effect. The leech toxin would reapply the bleed, requiring even more healing to eliminate it.
Wait,
He
okay.
didn't think the Shab had any rapid healing ability. Poison. Leech toxin.
Let me try to
affliction, poison.
listen
Blood.
to this.
Stacking. When bleeding is negated, an instance of leech toxin on the target is consumed to reapply bleeding. Additional instances can be accumulated. On top of inflicting damage through blood loss, the strength of the bleeding affliction was that it soaked up healing, negating its effect. The leech toxin would reapply the bleed, requiring even more healing to eliminate it. He didn't think the Shab had any rapid healing ability, but this would be useful against monsters with the power to regenerate. So
Wow, so he's got an ability that could affect monsters who can regenerate. Because they start to bleed, and then they do the leech toxin. And then the leech toxin gets consumed to reapply bleeding when bleeding runs out. So to make his bleeding effect last longer. And then it also requires for them to it also absorbs a heal. So if they try to heal themselves, it's going to just absorb the bleeding, and he's going to need more healing in order to get rid of the bleeding. Man, that's dope. And then so what does the other toxin do?
So long as enough of the leech toxin was applied, it would refresh the bleed over and over,
Over and
leaving any
over.
healing stopped cold.
Wow.
The other poison the leech inflicted was much the same as Jason's dagger. Necrotoxin.
Necrotoxin.
Affliction, poison. Stacking. Inflicts ongoing necrotic damage until poison is cleansed. Additional instances have a cumulative effect. Unlike Jason, the leeches didn't require an external source of necrotic damage. They were a tiny army of ambulatory poison daggers.
That is
Jason was
dope.
going to move in on it, but the Shab was already in bad shape.
That's
He felt a little
dope.
pointless compared to his familiar. His inexorable doom spell was already on the Shabs, but compared to what the leeches were doing, his spell adding a few more afflictions was barely relevant. The second Shab was drawing close, and Jason went forwards to meet it.
Wait, how
He
is
tried
it
to move around the
irrelevant?
pins. His inexorable doom spell was already on the Shabs, but compared to what the leeches were doing, ambulatory poison daggers. Jason was going to move in on it, but the Shab was already in bad shape. He felt a little pointless compared to his familiar. His inexorable doom spell was already on the Shabs, but compared to what the leeches were doing, his spell adding a few more afflictions was barely relevant. The second Shab was drawing close, and Jason went forwards to meet it. He tried to move around the pincers to get his knife into one of the leg joints, but was met with immediate difficulty. When not restricted by a tunnel, a Shab could easily skitter sideways to keep its savage mouth pointed right at its prey. The defensive potion slowing Jason down didn't help. A pincer
Right.
came at Jason. He avoided it clamping down on him, but took a glancing blow to the head. His skin might have been hardened by a potion, but it still rang his bell, sending him stumbling back. He
Okay.
glanced over at the first Shab, which was woozily staggering back and forth, covered in leeches. I think my familiar might be stronger than me, Jason said.
That's what it seems
Good job,
like.
Leechy. See if you can't catch that next one. Leeches started dropping off the stricken Shab, and Jason continued to square off with his own monster. Realizing there was no going around the pincers, he tried a new tack,
Okay.
moving straight in. A pincer shot out to grab him, and he raised his left arm, letting the pincer have it. The sharp pincer broke through even his toughened skin, applying crushing force to his arm and trying to drag him to its mouth.
Oh,
For the
wow.
price of letting the pincer grab his empty-handed left arm, his knife-wielding right was free to strike.
Oh,
With Jason's arm in its grip,
decoy.
the pincer was no longer jerking about. Jason slammed the point of his dagger into the joint of the pincer. Weapon, Nightfang, has inflicted Umbral Snake Venom on Shab. Special attack, Punish, has inflicted Sin on Shab. The creature shrieked, releasing Jason's arm. He stumbled back, the dagger sliding free of the creature. The Shab lashed out with its other pincer, and Jason gave up the injured arm again. Whether from the previous injury or the rage of the monster, the pincer clamping down was much more agonizing. He screamed at the pain, but fighting through it, savagely stabbed with his knife, again finding the joint of the
Alright,
pincer. It
alright.
was the monster's turn to shriek, as it once again released Jason's arm. Special attack, Leech Bite, has inflicted bleeding on Shab. Jason stumbled away from the Shab, his left arm hanging limp and dripping blood. Unlike his familiar, Jason couldn't pile on the afflictions rapidly, but now all he needed was time. The inexorable doom spell would live up to its name, escalating the curse and the poison until the monster was overcome. So long as he could stay out of the creature's reach, its defeat was inevitable.
All right, the only thing I can see basically for him as a weakness is that if he comes up against a monster that is immune to curses or is immune to afflictions, but that's got to be rare, right? It got to be something that's super, super duper powerful in order for it to not have any sort of, in order for it not be susceptible to curses or afflictions or anything. But that's the only thing I can think of that could be something that he can't defeat. Or, something that's just so strong that the afflictions doesn't do enough damage to really cause it any sort of problem or anything.
But Jason wasn't done. The Shab might be quick side to side, but just by jogging backward, Jason created distance. Then he stopped, held up his good arm.
But listen, I don't even see an army of weak monsters being a problem if he got his familiar, right? He got the slugs, and we don't know if these slugs can get more powerful by, like, I don't know, sucking or draining the blood from any of these crabs or anything. We still don't know if they can do that or not. But I don't see an army of weak monsters being a problem because all he gotta do is just make a ton of slugs, and then all the slugs will just get over or will cover all the monsters or whatever, and then they'll be bleeding them out and they'll be dying pretty soon. And all he gotta do basically is just try to dodge and survive. But if he can master like his teleportation and other little things that he can use to increase his defense, he should be good.
Good arm and chanted a spell. Your blood is not yours to keep, but mine on which to feast.
Heal.
Ability,
Heal that
feast
shattered
of blood.
arm.
Blood. Spell.
Or crushed
Drain,
blood.
arm. Base cost. Moderate mana. Cooldown. 30 seconds. Current rank. Iron. 0%.
Wait, what is this?
But mine on which to feast. Ability. Feast of blood. Blood. Spell. Drain. Blood. Base cost. Moderate mana. Cooldown. 30 seconds. Current rank. Iron. 0%. Effect.
Wait, the first time he used it, it wasn't no cooldown when he used Drain. And then the first time he used it, it also didn't require moderate mana. It required low mana. So now, why is there a cooldown and why is it moderate mana this time? Maybe because he already used it recently?
Effect. Iron. Drain health and stamina. Only affects targets with bleeding wounds or who are suffering from the bleeding affliction.
Wait, hold on. Is this a different... Hold on. Is this a different ability? Only affects targets with bleed. They didn't say that before.
Held up his good arm and chanted a spell. Your blood is not yours to keep, but mine on which to feast. Ability. Feast of blood. Blood. Spell.
Yeah, this is a different ability. So he got the ability to leech, right, which causes them to bleed, and then he got the ability to drain, which he can drain from dead bodies, and then this other ability is he's using it on somebody alive, I think.
Drain. Backward, Jason created distance. Then he stopped, held up his good arm, and chanted a spell. Your blood is not yours to keep, but mine on which to feast. Ability. Feast of blood. Blood. Spell. Drain. Blood. Base cost. Moderate mana. Cooldown. 30 seconds. Current rank. Iron. 0%. Effect. Iron. Drain health and stamina. Only affects targets with bleeding wounds or who are suffering from the bleeding affliction. Red life force shone out of the Shab. Some of it started streaming out from the wounds Jason had inflicted and into his waiting hand.
Wow. So not only can he get health from targets that are dead, but he can also get health and stamina from targets who are inflicted with bleeding. So he can heal while he's still fighting the creature at the same time. Wow. That's crazy. That's really good, man. He got some really good skills.
Jason felt the healing sting in his wounded arm, but the life force drained was limited. Unlike his blood harvest spell, Feast of Blood didn't take all the life force, but he could use it on living enemies. Jason's arm was still far from healed, but at least now he could move it a little. The Shab let out an ear-piercing shriek, driven to madness by the effect of Jason's spell. The red glow retracted back into the Shab, which seemed frantic as Jason plucked away its life force. It scrambled madly, but was not physiologically designed for pursuit. If anything, its panicked movement was slowing it down. Jason easily kept out of reach as his affliction slowly overtook it. You have defeated Shab. Defeat Shab, 1 of 4. Jason glanced at the Shab the leeches had left behind. It was an emptied-out shell, collapsed on the ground. He looked around to where the leeches had moved to intercept the third Shab. Spotting them, he slapped an exasperated hand over his face. The third Shab had apparently seen what the Sanguine Horror did to the first one and was trying to avoid it. The leeches moved slowly, but the Shab was apparently unwilling to take its eyes off the leeches long enough to crab walk away. The result was 2 monsters shuffling around in an awkward circle. When I said, see if you can't catch it, I didn't actually mean for you to not catch it. Jason couldn't get past his own Shab to intervene, being forced to wait out the ridiculous display. Defeat Shab, 1 of 3. The number of Shabs he needed to kill dropped by 1. Looking back over the channel, he saw a bloody and weary Hiram standing over a fallen Shab. Good for you, mate. Jason's own Shab finally collapsed, and he was able to corral the last one into the Sanguine Horror, which made short work of it. Quest: protect the village. Objective complete. Defeat Shab, 3 of 3. Oasis bracelet has been added to your inventory. Quest complete. 100 Iron Spirit coins have been added to your inventory.
Cool.
Jason had noticed that his quests were a lot less lucrative than killing cultists, at least in terms of spirit coins.
Right.
There was the other item, but he could check that later. On the far side of the channel, Hiram was bloodied but triumphant, standing with 1 foot on a dead Shab. He waved broadly at Jason, who waved back.
Wow.
Using his blood harvest spell, Jason drained the remnant life force from the 3 Shabs, healing himself back into pristine condition. Cool. He ran a hand over the bloody, but fully intact, arm that had not long ago been badly mangled.
Wow.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
He's tough.
He looted the Shabs, reabsorbed the Sanguine Horror, and made his way back across
He should get used to pain,
when
too.
When he got there, he tried to loot Hiram Shab. This monster kill was not yours. You are unable to loot this monster. Hey, Hiram, Jason said. Can I loot this corpse? Sure, Hiram said. Jason tried again. Monster Core, Iron Rank, has been added to your inventory. Water essence.
Wow. Okay, so he can't loot monsters that he doesn't kill unless he gets permission from the one who killed it. That's new. Okay, cool.
Has been added to your inventory. 10 Iron Spirit coins have been added to your inventory. Jason raised his eyebrows at the loot message. From his adventuring companions, Jason had gotten the impression that essences were fairly rare, in spite of his own experiences. He took the essence and spirit coins have been added to your inventory. Jason raised his eye. Jason tried again. Monster Core, Iron Rank, has been added to your inventory. Water Essence has been added to your inventory.
Water Essence?
Coins
he got another essence. But wait, can he use the essence even though he's got all 4 of his essences? Because he's got dark, he's got blood, he's got sin, and then he's got doom. So can he use the essence maybe to like power up one of his already essences that he has? I wonder how that's going to work.
Out of the loot message. From his adventuring companions, Jason had gotten the impression that essences were fairly rare.
Wait, is he going to give the essence to the dude who defeated the crab so he can get stronger?
Of his own experiences. He took the essence out of his inventory, a shimmering blue cube reminiscent of the aperture. He held it out to Hiram. Is that what I think it is?
Bro, you better just give it to him!
Water essence, Jason confirmed. I can't take that.
No, bro, you gotta sell that shit!
What they're worth?
We gotta be selfish!
Jason looked at Hiram, then down at the Shab. He pointed towards the mountain. The monster came from over there, Jason said. He pointed in the opposite direction. The village is over there. He pointed at the ground. You stood right here, right in between them. He shoved the cube into Hiram's chest. As Hiram stared disbelievingly at the cube in his hands, Jason took out another object he looted from the Shab. It was a monster core, which he had seen before, but this one was Iron Rank, compared to the lesser-ranked ones already in his possession. It was teardrop-shaped, like a lesser core, but slightly larger and a more vibrant red.
Okay.
Item, Monster Core, Iron, Iron Rank, Common. The magic core of an Iron Rank monster, crafting material, Magic Core. Effect, common component for ritual magic and magic item creation, can be absorbed directly to advance essence abilities. You are...
Wait, what? Can it be absorbed directly to what?
Iron Rank, Common. The magic core of an Iron Rank monster, crafting material, Magic Core. Effect, common component for ritual magic and magic item creation, can be absorbed directly to advance essence abilities. You are able to absorb Monster Core, Iron. Absorb. Yes, no.
Bruh, you gotta... Bruh, I just said that, okay, maybe he can use the essence to power up his essence abilities. No, he needs to get monster cores that are of rank Iron or above and then he can absorb it to improve his essence abilities. At first, I thought he was going to use that monster core to maybe do a ritual so the guy can absorb that water essence. So because they need to do a ritual in order to absorb the water essence. They can't absorb it the way that he can. So at first, I thought he was going to use that to try to do a ritual so that way the guy can absorb that water essence. But no, he can absorb it to power up his own essence. But then this also shows you too more about his personality is that he's not selfish. Like if he thinks that somebody has done an admirable job and defeated a monster, I mean, because that's crazy though. Because the one he defeated 3 of the monsters, and then he defeated that one monster, and that one monster had an essence. So I'm guessing that was the reason why he's giving it to him, because that's what came from the monster that he defeated. So he's like, hey, here's your reward for defeating that monster. But I wonder, what can you do with essences once you already have all of yours? Like, is there something that you can do with it? Because otherwise, it's basically just used to sell, because you got all 4 of yours if you can't use it for anything else.
Jason's eyes went wide when he saw it could advance his essence abilities. He was tempted to try it immediately, but decided to ask Rufus and Farah first. He didn't want to wind up with any strange side effects.
Oh my God.
Hiram and Jason sat down on the grass for a well-earned rest. Hiram's eyes didn't shift from the essence in his hands. I can probably help you out with an essence ritual for that, Jason said. Essence rituals were one of the most fundamental magical practices, and the knowledge Jason got from the skill book was more than sufficient to perform one. No thanks, Hiram said. I'm saving this for when my granddaughter is old enough. An essence makes you an important person in the village, which is why I'm in charge of watching over the aperture. How old do you have to be to use an essence? Jason asked. That earned him a strange look from Hiram. I'm from a very isolated area, Jason said. We don't really know anything about magic there. I'm just starting to learn this stuff for myself. Must be pretty damn isolated, Hiram said. If you try and absorb an essence too young, there are problems. Never seen it myself, but I've heard it's bad. There's a simple test to see if your body's ready. It's usually at around 16 or 17, but it can go a year or 2 either way. Thanks, Jason said.
Okay.
I still have a lot to learn. Well,
so
I owe you, Hiram said.
Okay, so you're saying that the essences can force and advance essence abilities? That's what you said? So if you get a different essence, he can use that to force his essence to evolve?
Getting to his feet. So does the village. I don't want to think about what would have happened if 4 of those things got in there. Jason likewise stood up. I'm sure it would have been fine, he said. If they made it to the village, my adventurer friend...
Cores can. Okay. Yeah, that's what they said in the, back when he was reading about the Iron Rank core, that it can evolve his essence abilities, and he's not going to use it right now. I was wondering, what can he do with the essences if he already has all of his essences? Like, what other benefit could it be? Oh, so just sell it. You just basically can sell it for coins. Okay.
Friends would have seen it and stepped in. That's what adventurers do, right? That's right, Hiram said, putting a hand on Jason's shoulder. That's what adventurers do.
Man, this 2 hours went by pretty damn fast, I gotta say. I mean, it's not 2 hours yet, but it's almost 2 hours.
Chapter 30. Closing the door too hard. In the garden courtyard of the inn, Jason sat comfortably in the late afternoon shade, looking down at a single leech on the ground. So you got it, right? He asked. Left for yes, right for no. That's my left and right, so you're right and left. You have that? The leech moved to the left. Okay, that's a yes. Unless you don't have it right and you were trying to say no? The leech wobbled side to side. Yeah, I'm confused too. I can't seem to help overcomplicating things. All right, let's just assume you've got it. That fine by you? The leech moved left. Great.
Okay.
So do you have a name? The leech moved right. No name. Okay. Would you like me to give you one? The leech moved left.
Okay.
That's good,
Okay.
Jason said. I don't want to keep calling you Leechy. That'd be like Gary calling me Humany. Or Outworldery, I guess. Not being human anymore is a bit of a blow.
Okay.
Who are you talking to? Gary asked, walking into the courtyard.
So what name is
I'm
he
trying to
gonna
come up with a
choose?
name for my familiar, Jason said. How do you know it doesn't have one already? Farah said, following Gary into the courtyard. I asked, Jason said. And it answered? Gary asked. We have a system, Jason said. Where have you all been? There was some excitement here. We found out the guy had a cabin in the desert, Farah said. There's a cave where he'd go searching for Earth quintessence. We thought that might be where he'd hold up. Jason heard a door slam open inside the inn. He got up and went into the common room to look. He saw Martha, the landlady, doing the same. What they saw was a fuming Rufus stomp loudly up the stairs, followed by the sound of another slamming door. How did he get that reed door to slam so loud? Jason wondered aloud. They're really light. A heady combination of finesse and rage, Farah said. I take it the guy wasn't in his cabin then, Jason said. Oh, he was there, Farah said. Anissa killed him before he could get a word out. Jason winced. I guess she was serious about the guy being her church's to deal with, Jason said. Why was Rufus so set on talking to the guy anyway? We can sit down for that, Gary said. But I could really use a drink first. Just use a spirit coin, Farah said. We can do better than that, Jason said. Martha, could we get some of that fruit punch? Anything for you, sweetie. What is it with you and the people in this village? Farah asked as they walked back into the courtyard.
They
sat down
jealous.
at the picnic table.
Jealous.
I could swear I heard people talking about you when we came back into town.
He saved the village.
It's the dashing good looks, Jason said. Farah and Gary shared a look. Hey, Jason said sadly. He knelt down and held his hand out for the leech to crawl onto, then lifted it up to rest on his shoulder. Are you sure you want to put that there? Gary asked. I don't think I'd want those teeth that close to my ear. He won't hurt me, Jason said. He's my little guy. I think he's a guy. I think I read that leeches can switch it around. You are a strange man, Farah said. Martha came in with a huge jug filled with juice and large chunks of ice. Her nephew, Harold, followed with a trio of glasses, getting a swat from Martha when he goggled at the leech on Jason's shoulder. Thanks, Martha, Jason said, filling each of the glasses. One was even a Gary-sized mug with a big handle. After the landlady and her nephew left, Jason asked again about Rufus. The area we come from, Farah said, has a higher density of magic than this region, so the monsters there are stronger on average. In this region, iron rank monsters are the norm, with a good smattering of bronze rank. Silvers can show up, but only very occasionally. But where we come from, Gary added, you get more silver rank monsters than anything. You see as many golds as you do bronze, and sometimes even diamond rank monsters.
What?
And if iron ranks do appear, there's always about 40 of the pricks.
Wow.
He chugged half of his giant glass.
That's a lot.
Topping it off from the jug.
He can do some
You're
farming,
from one of those
bruh.
big cities? Jason asked. That's right, Gary said. Vitesse. The city of flowers, Farah added. That's weird, Jason said. There's a language in my world where vitesse means speed. Not how it works in our city, Gary said. Vitesse is as leisurely as any place you'll find, Farah explained. Culture, cuisine, lots of money floating around, even at the low end. A laborer in Vitesse can make as much as a craftsman here. Not a good craftsman, Gary said, but still. What does any of this have to do with Rufus being angry? Jason asked. Well, Gary said, around here an iron rank adventurer can wander about in relative safety. If some monsters show up, then an iron rank adventurer can go after them on their own, or with a small team. But around Vitesse, Farah said, that's just asking for death. Even bronze rankers go out with a silver ranked escort. Coming here was our big chance to strike out on our own. Prove ourselves, Gary said. And then you went and got captured, Jason said.
Right.
Rufus is in charge, so he blames himself.
Makes sense.
Farah said.
Makes sense.
But you don't understand the level of pressure on him. His family operates the Remor Academy, which is a big deal everywhere, not just Vitesse. Let me guess, Jason said. Rufus is the living paragon of this academy's teaching methods, so when he fails, it's a black mark on his family's reputation. His family isn't like that, Gary said. They understand better than most that failure is a valuable lesson. Rufus is the one putting pressure on himself. More than anything, he blames himself for putting us in danger, Farah said. He takes responsibility seriously, and he thinks he let us down. The reason he was obsessed with catching the guy, Farah said, was so he could find out what he did wrong. Rufus works harder than anyone to avoid making a mistake once, let alone twice. In his eyes, Anissa took away his chance to understand what he did wrong. As far as Rufus is concerned, what Anissa did was the same as putting the team in danger. Is anyone else getting a shady feeling from Anissa? Jason asked.
Right.
Like she's quietly on the shock? I think that's going a bit far, Gary said. Probably, Jason said. I'm definitely biased, but think about it. She brought this job to you from her church, right? Then the guy supposedly working for her church sets you up. The shock? Farah asked. Anissa was in a cage like the rest of us, Gary said. Sure, Jason said. But she didn't go to the ritual chamber.
Right.
Did she?
She was gone.
Who's to say that if I hadn't shown up, there wouldn't be some other excuse to leave her behind? Then she breaks out all by herself? So did you? They underestimated me backwards and forwards, Jason said. And even then I was lucky. Do you think a blood cult is going to underestimate a priestess of purity? She had a
Right.
collar like the rest of us,
Right.
Gary said. They might have thought she couldn't do anything. Sure, Jason said. But did you notice that her escape took just long enough that if she rushed to save us, she would have been tragically late? That's thin, Farah said. So we busted ourselves out, Jason continued, leaving you free to find and question the guy who might have answers. Except he gets silenced before you even start with the questions. I'm not
Right.
convinced, Farah said. You're jumping a lot of gaps there. I'm not saying anything definitive, Jason said. Like I said,
it's
I
a
know
theory.
I'm biased enough to not see things
It's a
objectively.
theory,
But
right?
a lot of things are coming up funky on the smell test, so maybe keep your eyes open.
Right.
Always do,
Right.
Gary said. You were blindsided and handed over to a blood cult, Jason said.
I mean, that makes sense to me. That makes sense because it's just like, I mean, is it a coincidence? Like, so many coincidences got to be a pattern at some point, right? So like, okay, so it's basically just like watch out. She might be doing something sneaky. Might be something nefarious going on.
This is really good, Farah said, after emptying her glass of fruit punch, veering off topic. I know, right? Jason said, refilling her glass. I'll have to ask what's in it. Most of the local ingredients I've never heard of. Bought a notebook last night at the market to jot down recipes. They heard the front door of the inn slam open again. That door's going to get ruined, Jason said. Anissa strode out into the courtyard, storming up to Jason. Why is everyone talking about you like you're the town hero? She asked, her face filled with fury when she spotted a leech on Jason's shoulder.
She seems like
What is that thing?
such a bitch.
That's Colin, Jason said. I've decided to call him Colin, and his friends. Team Colin. Anissa's hand flashed towards it, her bronze rank reflexes too fast
His
for
name's
Jason to
Colin?
react. Not too fast for Gary, however,
Okay.
who clamped her wrist in his huge, hairy hand.
Colin's cool.
Anissa glared at Gary as she tugged at her arm, but his grip didn't budge. Not happening, Gary said. That thing is obviously evil, Anissa said. It doesn't matter what it is, Rufus said, striding into the courtyard. While the others turned to look, Jason pulled a knife and pricked his finger, letting Colin the Apocalypse Leech melt back into his bloodstream. He bought a small, sharp knife for the purpose, after accidentally poisoning himself with the snake-toothed dagger. Looking up after putting the knife away, he saw Anissa and Rufus squaring off. You knew he had that thing, Anissa accused. I did, Rufus said, calmly. He's tainted, she said. We need to burn him.
What?
You don't get a say in what we do anymore, Anissa, especially when it comes to killing people. You're out. What are you talking about? This was always a temporary collaboration, Rufus said.
Uh-oh.
The collaboration ends here.
Kicking her out.
Over him? She asked, gesturing at Jason. No, Anissa, over you, Rufus said. You decide for yourself when to listen and when to do whatever you like. You're willing to place even your slightest ideal over the well-being of this team, and that is unacceptable. The most important thing in a team is trust, and
Okay.
I don't trust you.
Okay.
Humans, Anissa said, spitting out the word like a curse. You're all filth. She turned, marched away, and they heard the door slam as she departed the inn. Rufus was stewing on the spot.
Whoa.
Jason, Farah, and Gary sharing wary looks.
Well,
I think we may be paying for a new door, Gary said. Chapter 31. Taming the Beast. Mr. Mayor, Rufus said, are you certain you don't want us to investigate the astral space? We considered it, the mayor said. But we are only one of many places with an aperture leading to that astral space. We have no idea if the other
I mean, so far, this what the fuck was her name was? Whatever her name was, I forget what her name was. So far, it seems like the priestess lady is a bitch. She's just a complete bitch. But she might be having some other plots going on, some subplots going on that we don't know about, potentially. But it's crazy where they came from. It's so many silver monsters, a couple gold monsters, and then if an iron or a lesser monster comes up, it's 40 of them. So I wonder, like, what can they defeat? Like, together, can they defeat like a silver rank monster? Because I don't think they can defeat, because they say they're close to silver, but they're not quite silver yet. So I wonder, does that mean that they're strong enough to defeat a silver rank monster? or could they defeat a gold rank monster? I'm not sure as far as like how powerful they are.
Agents are having similar issues, and the cost of a mistake could be critical. I respect your prudence, Mr. Mayor, Rufus said. As promised, I'll deliver your letters to the Adventure Society and the Magic Society when we reach Greenstone. Thank you. The mayor had met them at the inn as they were readying to go. They were traveling on foot, as Anissa had claimed the wagon and its animals for her church, which Rufus didn't bother to argue. Hiram stood alongside the mayor.
Anissa.
Farewell, adventurers, the mayor said. And thanks again to you, Jason. I don't like to think what would happen if those creatures had entered the village. No worries, Greg, Jason said, shaking the mayor's hand. Then Hiram.
He's humble, bruh.
If there's anything I can ever do for you.
No big deal,
Hiram
Greg.
said. Well, if you find another essence, Jason said. I looted all those monsters and you got the only one. Stuff that, Hiram said. If I find another essence, I'm keeping it. I have more than one grandchild, you know. Jason laughed. You'll have to introduce me next time I come through, he said. That shouldn't take long, Farah said. The Adventure Society uses patrol contracts as punishment, and... She placed a hand on Jason's shoulder. This one has a mouth on him. Hey, Jason said, mock hurt on his face. They set out...
I think I might have gotten another, yeah, I gotta skip
out along the road on foot. Jason didn't mind so much, since the wagon hadn't been a comfortable ride over the hard desert ground. On their walk out of the village, it seemed like everyone gave them a friendly wave or a few words of farewell. We've been here 2 days, Farah muttered. Not my fault you weren't here when monsters started raining from the sky.
All right, bro. Check you out later. I'm gonna still stay on for a little while, so see you next time.
Jason said. They set out along the South Trail, normally used by quarry transports, leaving the lush village behind for the dry wastes of the desert. Jason was much more comfortable than the last time they endured the arid waste. The reward he received from his quest to protect the village was exactly what he needed. Item, Oasis Bracelet, Iron Rank, Uncommon. A bracelet that draws on the power of water quintessence to bestow the blessings of a personal oasis. Accessory, Bracelet. Effect, keeps the wearer cool and refreshed. Bracelet energy is consumed at a varying rate according to climate. Effect, a bracelet that draws on the... Jason was much more comfortable than the last time they endured the arid waste. The reward he received from his quest... They set out along the South Trail, normally used by quarry transports, leaving the lush village behind for the dry wastes of the desert. Jason was much more comfortable than the last time they endured the arid waste. The reward he received from his quest to protect the village was exactly what he needed. Item, Oasis Bracelet, Iron Rank, Uncommon. A bracelet that draws on the power of water quintessence to bestow the blessings of a personal oasis. Accessory, Bracelet. Effect, keeps the wearer cool and refreshed. Bracelet energy is consumed at a varying rate according to climate. Effect, reduces incoming fire and heat damage. This rapidly consumes bracelet energy. Effect, consume a water quintessence gem to completely refill bracelet energy.
Oh,
the bracelet was a cord looped with small
that's
round stones.
good though, because he already got water quintessence or whatever already. So he's good. He's good.
When he first touched a sapphire-like water quintessence gem to one of the stones, it had vanished. All the stones had turned from a sandy yellow to vibrant blue, and would slowly turn back as the magic of the gem was used up. Under the refreshing effect of the bracelet, Jason was happily making his way alongside the others. Now that he wasn't preoccupied with cursing the sun, he had a greater appreciation of the barren desert. It wasn't that different to parts of Central Australia. They were on an unsealed road, compacted to a hard surface by the scorching sun, and heavy wagon loads of quarried stone. Wagons full of green marble rolled along the road in the same direction they were headed, while wagon loads of food came the other way. Did you really name your familiar Colin? Gary asked as they walked. Yeah, I told you that, Jason said. You should have given it a more intimidating name, like Devourer or something. Gary, Jason said, it's a bloodthirsty apocalypse monster. It's intimidating enough. Farah, Gary, and Jason chatted away as they walked. Rufus was still withdrawn after his confrontation with Anissa. It's a little strange to be so comfortable in such an inhospitable environment, Jason said. It gets much worse closer to the coast, Farah said.
Hold on. I'm gonna be back.
Okay.
Okay.
Said. At least here you can see some grass, the occasional tree. There it's just endless lifeless sand, dry and dead, like the sun scorched all life out of it. That's cheery, Jason said. We won't need to trudge through that, Gary said. We're heading south now until we hit the river, then we'll take a boat west to the coast. They encountered a wagon that had been carrying fresh fruit to the village when it threw a wheel. While Gary and Farah fixed the wagon, Jason and Rufus helped pick up the spilled fruit. Gary used one of his Forge essence powers to repair the wheel. Jason was startled as Farah used superhuman strength to lift the wagon so Gary could slip the wheel back onto the axle.
Oh,
Gary
wow.
at least looked like he had overpowering strength. Seeing the same kind of power from Farah was startlingly incongruous. What's wrong with you? Farah asked Jason. I thought you were some kind of spellcaster, Jason said. What's with that strength? I have some spells, Farah said, but humans have an affinity for special attacks. I spend most of my time up close and personal. The spells just give me a little flexibility. I don't have any spells at all, Rufus said. Farah having as many as she does is unusual. The wagon fixed, the grateful teamster left them, walking away eating some kind of juicy melon. Jason, Rufus, and Farah had a slice each, while Gary ate the rest of the melon. Afterward, Rufus seemed a little less broody than he had for most of the day. Where are they getting fresh fruit in the desert? Jason asked. You'll get to see for yourself soon enough, Rufus told him. As they traveled, Jason took Rufus aside. I have kind of a delicate question, Jason said softly. What's that? Rufus asked. Well, Jason hesitated. Being Iron Rank does things to your body, right? That's right. I haven't needed the toilet in 4 days. I had a sneeze maze, but since then, nothing. Rufus erupted into laughter,
He ain't gotta go to the
drawing the attention
bathroom?
of the others. Really? Jason asked. That's normal, Rufus said. Your body doesn't waste anything anymore. It can burn almost anything for fuel. I heard about a man that had to live on tree bark for a month. That's a myth, Farah said. No, I know a guy who met the guy who did that, Gary said. Of course you believe it, Farah said. Mr. I don't need to check what's in the box. Again with this. How was I meant to know Vivienne would betray us? Gary asked. Because it was really obvious, Farah said, and we told you she would. We did tell you, Rufus agreed. You two have no sense of romance, Gary said. Late in the afternoon, they came across a town, enclosed in massive walls made of tan-colored desert stone. It was laid out in a square, with large gates in every wall. Inside was a town mostly built of the same bland bricks as the walls. The town's layout was based around a huge central square, with wide, straight roads leading from the town gates right into it. The square was a bustle of activity, covered in wagons hauling the local green stone. This is the main distribution point for all the green marble in this region, Farah explained. There are villages like the one we stayed in all through the region. From here it all gets taken south and shipped downriver on barges. I figured there were more when they told me the name of the village was Northeast Quarry Village 4, Jason said. No wonder they all just called it the village, Gary said. What's with the huge walls? Jason asked. The walls surrounding the town were at least 7 meters high and almost 3 meters thick. That's for the monster surge, Rufus said. What's a monster surge? Jason asked. Every 10 years, Rufus explained. There's a massive increase in the spawn rate of monsters, all across the world all at the same time. Whole villages evacuate to fortified towns, like this one, which is why most of this town is actually empty. So long as there isn't anyone left in the villages, the monsters largely leave them alone. So how long has it been since the last monster surge? Jason asked. 11 years, Rufus said.
11 years.
It's never exactly 10 years, Farah said. It's been as little as 8 or as many as 13. The last few have all come pretty late. They didn't need to find an inn to stay the night. Most of the town was composed of transient shelters that villagers used during the surges, which were available to anyone passing through. Mostly that meant teamsters hauling stone one way or food the other. Rufus led them to register in the square, where they were provided basic accommodation without cost. After they found the simple stone cottage to which they had been assigned, Rufus approached Jason. There's still a few hours of light, Rufus said. Come with me for a little bit. Rufus led them in silence. They went to the edge of town and up one of the many sets of stairs, arriving on the top of the west wall. There he stopped to look out at the horizon, Jason stopping beside him. So you fought your first proper monster, Rufus said.
Right.
The shabs were certainly rougher than the potent hamster, Jason said. Rufus turned his head to glance at Jason. Your power to identify things extends to monsters. Just their names. Rufus looked back out at the desert landscape. It's time you learned how to advance your abilities, he said. Actually, that reminds me, Jason said.
Right.
I have a bunch of monster cores. Apparently they can raise abilities up? Rufus's head snapped sideways to look at him. You didn't use any, did you? No, I was waiting to ask you, Jason said. I thought there might be side effects. After that reaction, I'm assuming there are. Rufus let out a breath. I'm glad. I should have thought to tell you, but I forgot you had an ability to loot monsters.
Oh,
You're lucky.
right.
It's a rare power.
Right.
It's
Okay.
not just me that can do that then? No, but it's a highly coveted ability. I'm starting to get envious, Rufus said. Don't humans have their abilities go up faster than everyone else? Jason asked. Everyone else including me, since I'm not human, which still seems harsh. Being human does have its perks, Rufus acknowledged. Rub it in, why don't you? Jason asked. How about you tell me how to raise my abilities so I can start catching up to you three?
Right.
That's what we're here for, Rufus said. There are two ways to raise your abilities.
Okay.
One is to use monster cores. Every core increases your abilities a little, but only a little. It takes hundreds of iron rank cores to reach bronze rank, and that's for humans. For everyone else, it takes even more. It takes iron rank cores when you're iron rank, bronze when you're bronze, and so forth. But you should never, ever use this method. Do you turn into a monster or something?
Wait, what?
No, Rufus said. I said there were two ways of raising your abilities. Every time you use a monster core to raise your abilities, it makes the other method a little less effective. Do you turn into a monster or something?
Wait,
For
okay.
everyone else-
So you can use the monster cores to increase your abilities, but you don't want to use that? See, I didn't expect this. This is interesting.
It takes even more. It takes iron rank cores when you're iron rank, bronze when you're bronze, and so forth. But you should never, ever use this method.
Never ever
Do you
use
turn
this
into
way.
a monster or something? No, Rufus said. I said there were two ways of raising your abilities. Every time you use a monster core to raise your abilities, it makes the other method a little less effective. The impact is minimal at first, but every core you use eats into your potential. If you used cores to get to where I am, the top end of bronze rank, then cores would be the only thing that works anymore, and bronze rank isn't that high.
Oh,
Couldn't you just hunt up more monsters for cores?
right.
Jason asked. You could, Rufus said. And some do. In the city we're going to, Greenstone, almost everyone uses cores. So long as you have the money to buy them, you can reach bronze rank without ever facing a monster. But every rank requires more and more cores. By the
Right.
time you reach silver rank, things slow right down as the costs go up significantly. Most core users don't make it to gold. If people know this, why would anyone use cores?
Right.
Jason asked. Because it's easy, and you can buy the cores instead of risking your own neck, Rufus said.
Right.
Most aristocratic
So I'm
families only have
guessing-
a few truly
So I'm guessing the other way of increasing your abilities might be to use them to defeat enemies. Maybe that increases his abilities. Something's burning. Huh.
If people know this, why would anyone use cores? Jason asked. Because it's easy, and you can buy the cores instead of risking your own neck, Rufus said. Most aristocratic families only have a few truly powerful adventurers, while the rest use cores. Do you have aristocracy in your world? Sure, Jason said. We're slowly phasing it out in favor of wealth-based oligarchy, but it's still around. All right.
Okay.
So what's so bad about the second method that people would use these cores? It requires danger and hard work. I bet it isn't the danger that stops them, Jason said. It's the hard work, right? Probably, Rufus said with a chuckle. The other path to developing your abilities, the real way, has 3 elements. Rufus raised 3 fingers, counting them off as he explained. The first element is training. You have to practice pushing your body to its limits, and not just the physical ones. You have to strain against the boundaries of what your 4 attributes are capable of. Exhaust yourself, body and mind. Pushing yourself to the limits prepares you to go beyond them. So, exercise? Yes,
Push
but
yourself
not
to
just
the
physical
limits.
exercise.
Okay.
You have to train the mind as well. Perception is part of your spiritual strength, and we will teach you how to exercise it. How? Observation training, which is a practical skill as well as a good training technique. Memory games, puzzles, anything that tests the mind can work.
Okay.
That actually sounds a little fun. That's good, Rufus said. Training done right will leave you feeling satisfied and empowered. The second element is also about pushing yourself, but in a much more dangerous way. Fighting monsters. Fighting monsters, Rufus said. To truly break through your limits, you must truly push up against them. Only with genuine danger can you go further and do more than you ever thought possible. That's simple enough to understand, if mildly terrifying.
Okay.
What's the third part? Jason asked. Meditation. Meditation, as in just sitting there? Yes, Rufus said.
Okay.
Meditation is crucial. The other two elements are about breaking through.
So train your mind and your abilities, face danger from very powerful monsters, and then training. So that's crazy though. So why would be absorbing beast cores make it so where it would be harder to do all those things though? Like, I don't understand how that works.
Through your own limits. Meditation is about consolidating that gain. It's where you take the fleeting moments in which you are better than you've ever been before and make that your new normal. Is there a mantra or something? The key is concentrating on the magic flowing inside you. You can feel it, right? I can, Jason said. It feels unruly, doesn't it? Like some wild creature inside you. Yeah, it kind of does, Jason said. Using an ability feels like throwing out a piece of meat for it to run out and devour. That's the sensation after you reach a new rank, Rufus said. You'll slowly bring that beast under your control as your abilities grow. Then you'll reach a new rank and have a new beast to contend with, more powerful than the last. How does that work with core users? For them, it's like feeding the beast drugged meat to make it compliant. The beast still has its strength, but the owner can't make use of it properly. So core users aren't just hampering their future, they're also making themselves kind of crappy in the present. That's exactly what they're doing, Rufus said. Rufus directed Jason to sit cross-legged, looking out over the landscape. He spent the remaining daylight guiding Jason through his first meditation, until the sunset lit up the sky with orange and gold.
Okay.
Jason opened his eyes to watch. You know, Jason said, I think I'm starting to like it here. That night, as he lay in the small bed in their assigned accommodation, Jason checked his character screen. Jason Asano, race, Outworlder, current rank, Iron, progression to bronze rank, 0%, 0 of 4 essences complete. Attributes, power, blood, Iron 0, speed, dark, Iron 0, spirit, doom, Iron 0, recovery, sin, Iron 0. Racial abilities, Outworld. As he lay in the small bed in their assigned accommodation, Jason.
So kind of getting a
his
summary of
character
his abilities.
Jason Asano, race, Outworlder.
Jason Asano.
Current rank, Iron. Progression to bronze rank, 0%. 0 of 4 essences complete. Attributes, power, blood, Iron 0. Speed, dark, Iron 0. Spirit, doom, Iron 0. Recovery, sin, Iron 0. Racial abilities, Outworlder. Interface, quest system, inventory, map, astral affinity, mysterious stranger. Essences, 4 of 4. Dark, speed, 3 of 5. Midnight Eyes, special ability, Iron 0. 0.4%. Cloak of Night, special ability, Iron 0. 0.2%. Path of Shadows, special ability, Iron 0. 0.0%. Blood, power, 4 of 5. Blood Harvest, spell, Iron 0. 0.1%. Leech Bite, special attack, Iron 0. 0.1%. Feast of Blood, spell, Iron 0. 0.1%. Sanguine Horror, familiar, Iron 0. 0.1%.
Okay.
Sin, recovery, 3 of 5. Punish, special attack, Iron 0. 0.1%. Feast of Absolution, spell, Iron 0. 0.0%. Sin Eater,
Yeah, because he
special
hasn't
ability,
used it.
Iron 0. 0.2%. Doom, spirit, 1 of 5. Inexorable Doom, spell, Iron 0. 0.1%. Looking over his abilities, he saw they had barely increased. Some he hadn't even used yet. I have to try out that shadow teleport.
Right. The shadow teleport. Gotta use that shit.
Chapter 32. Monster Hunting for Beginners.
Okay.
An hour after they left the walled town, Rufus stopped walking. He took a piece of paper from his pocket, looked it over, then turned his gaze to the desert landscape around them. This is it, he said, and walked off, leaving the road behind. What's going on? Gary asked as they followed. Rufus handed him the paper. Gary glanced over it. Nice, he said, handing the paper to Jason. It was a monster notification, with details and directions. Jason had seen something similar back in the Waterfall Village, but there was apparently a notice board for them in every town and village. Did you take this from the town we just went through? Jason asked. That's right, Rufus said. Are you allowed to just take them? Jason asked. The location was listed by landmarks that Jason spotted by looking around their current location, a series of distinctively shaped rocky outcroppings. You can make copies, Gary said. When you kill the monster, you mark the copy, and it gets rid of the original. Then you just have to report next time you're at an Adventure Society branch. What if someone just makes a copy and destroys it without killing the monster? Jason asked. Why would anyone do that? Gary asked. Because people are terrible, Jason said. Is that what you think? Farah asked. I'm starting to worry about your world. Really? Jason asked. Because when I came to your world, people kept trying to eat and or kill me. He has a point, Gary said. To make proper copies, you need an Adventure Society badge, Rufus said. The Society can use that to track down who made the copy. The badge also tracks the monsters you've killed, Farah said. And they can use it to find your body when you die, Gary said. Very comforting, Jason said.
Okay.
So why are we going after this monster? We're not, Rufus said.
You are.
You are.
Ah.
You are. New quest, adventure notice, giant desert moor spider. Local townsfolk have spotted a monster in the area that matches the description of a giant desert moor spider. Slay the creature before it becomes aggressive and starts attacking travelers. Objective, defeat giant desert moor spider, 0 of 1. Reward, quintessence. Jason took another look at the sheet of paper, which named the same monster as the quest. Giant desert moor spider, he read. How giant are we talking? About Gary's size, Rufus said. The size isn't what you need to watch out for, though. They have a huge mouth full of the nastiest teeth you've ever seen, Farah said. It has a barbed tongue that will whip out, grab your limbs, and try to drag them into that mouth.
Oh, shit.
Sounds delightful. But why are we doing this?
Like a frog.
I haven't seen you fight yet, Rufus said. I need to see what kind of level you're at. I can save you some time there, Jason said. My level is low. Very, very low. You say that, Rufus said. But it could just be modesty. Jason cast his blood harvest spell, and the remnant life force of the dead monster flowed into him, healing his wounds. The spell was strong, but not enough to completely recover his injuries. His wounds had closed, but he felt carved up like a small goods platter. He tapped a finger on the remains. Would you like to loot giant desert moor spider?
Bro!
He looked in the direction of the adventurers.
They just skipped him killing this. I guess the spider really wasn't that big of a deal. Because they literally just skipped over him killing the spider. Like, it was like, I guess it was just nothing. It was not that big of a deal. It was no point in even getting into the details. He killed it. That was
You
it.
say that, Rufus said. But it could just be modesty. Jason cast his blood harvest spell, and the remnant life force of the dead monster flowed into him, healing his wounds. The spell was strong, but not enough to completely recover his injuries. His wounds had closed, but he felt carved up like a small goods platter. He tapped a finger on the remains. Would you like to loot giant desert moor spider? He limped in the direction of the adventurers as the monster dissolved into rainbow smoke behind him. 10 spider quintessence gems have been added to your inventory.
Spider quintessence.
The others had been watching Jason's fight from a distance. His clothes were in bloody tatters, his body painted red. So, Rufus said as Jason drew close. Not being modest, then. Quest, monster notice, giant desert moor spider. Objective complete.
Wait, he just
Giant-
said so you're not being modest. So now he believes like, oh, you really are weak as hell. That's crazy.
Bloody tatters, his body painted red. So, Rufus said as Jason drew close. Not being modest,
Not
then.
being so modest, huh?
Quest, monster notice, giant desert moor spider. Objective complete. Defeat, giant desert moor spider. 1 of 1. 10 earth quintessence gems have been added to your inventory.
See, I thought he was really strong because, well, not really strong, but I thought he was like fairly strong just because of like his abilities and how useful they are. But it seems like in comparison to like the bronze rank, like he just can't. Oh shit, excuse me. He just can't compete. Not at all.
Inventory. Quest complete. 100 Iron Spirit coins have been added to your inventory. I'm running out of intact clothes, Jason said. You do seem to go through them, Gary said. Farah drew her stone chest from the ground and took out a bottle of clear liquid with a glass stopper. It's called Crystal Wash, Farah said, pushing the bottle into Jason's hands. Strip down and then pour this over your head. I don't have a lot, so be appreciative. Jason stripped down to his underwear.
Okay.
All the way, Farah said.
All the way.
Jason pulled off the silk boxer shorts he had taken from the Vane Manor. Past caring, he didn't even glance over to see if the others were looking at his naked body. There was enough blood on him anyway that it was effectively body paint. He pulled out the stopper and tipped it over his head. A clear, viscous liquid poured out and rapidly started spreading itself over him, thinning as it worked its way down. It excised the blood and filth from his body, cleaning with an intimate thoroughness. An odd expression crossed his face
That's
as
cool.
the liquid cleared out the hard-to-reach nooks and crannies. He could smell a fresh fragrance coming off his body as the liquid evaporated into nothingness. Its job done. He felt cleaner than he ever had in his life.
That's cool.
It's perfumed? He asked. No, Crystal Wash is completely odorless and clears off everything, Farah said. If there's any stink left behind, that's just you. Gary walked over and sniffed at Jason.
That's just
Why
it.
do you smell like flowers? The other two crowded around Jason and started smelling him. Still naked, Jason said, boxed in by the trio. We've seen Rufus naked, Farah said. No one cares about your scrawny body. Hey, Rufus and Jason said
They
together.
don't even care.
You do smell like flowers, Farah said. What's up with that? I think it might be an Outworlder thing, Rufus said. I knew an Outworlder who smelled quite similar. Did you now?
Rufus
Yeah.
always saying that.
Did someone have a little Outworlder fling? Farah asked. Still naked, Jason said. It wasn't like that, Rufus said. I was young and she barely even looked at me. Will everyone back off so I can put on some clothes? We're right here, Gary said. You don't have to shout. If you had that bottle of cleaning stuff the whole time, Crystal Wash, Farah said. Right, Jason said. If you had that the whole time, why didn't you give me some after I purged all those toxins? Purging your toxins is like a rite of passage, she said. So you didn't use any when you went through it? Absolutely not, Farah said, unconvincingly. She had a whole case of bottles on hand, Gary said. If you didn't learn the value of Crystal Wash, then you wouldn't appreciate it, Farah
Oh
said.
my god, that's such
Meaning you
bullcrap.
thought it was funny that I smelled so bad, Jason said.
Yep.
It was pretty funny,
That's about it.
Gary said. I've never seen that much sludge come out of a person. It's like you were keeping extra in your storage space. They passed through another village near the middle of the day. Its astral space aperture was small, producing only a large pond. It had a quarrying operation, but it was much smaller than the waterfall village. Are apertures the only water sources around here? Jason asked. No, Rufus said. But more of the green stone appears around the apertures. The bigger the aperture, the higher grade stone you'll find. They only stopped long enough for Rufus to select another notice from the village's adventure board. We're on track to reach the river by nightfall, Rufus said. We have time for another one. Hand me a blank sheet from that box. Jason spotted the box of blank paper under the notice board, taking out a single sheet and handing it to Rufus. Rufus took a bronze medallion out of his pocket and touched it to the notice on the board. The medallion started glowing faintly until he touched it to the blank sheet Jason had retrieved. The glow faded and text appeared on the paper, matching that to the notice. This is the Adventure Society badge, Rufus explained. You'll get your own when you join. I would have thought you got enough from the last monster, Jason said. Wasn't I underwhelming enough? There are always more lessons to be learned, Rufus said, handing over the paper. New quest, monster notice, lesser earth elemental. Local townsfolk have spotted a monster in the area that matches the description of a lesser earth elemental. Slay the creature before it becomes aggressive and starts
I must have another. Yeah.
attacking travelers.
Okay.
Objective, defeat lesser earth elemental, 0 of 1. Reward, crafting material. Earth elemental, Jason read.
Crafting
That's like a
material.
pile of rocks and dirt that roams around and punches people? That's the one, Gary said. They have those in your world? Just stories, Jason said. So let me guess. I fight the thing and find out my abilities don't work on it because you can't poison or bleed out a pile of rocks. I get the snot kicked out of me, you step in to save me, and I learn an important lesson about failure and picking your battles. Is that more or less the idea? I think he's got your number, Rufus, Gary
Wow.
chortled. Yes, Rufus said, reaching to take the paper back. It's fine, you don't have to do it. No, I'm doing it, Jason said, keeping the paper.
So he wants
marched off in the direction of the village
he
gate.
wants to do it, huh?
I know you want to teach him to be a proper adventurer, Farah said to Rufus, but I don't think he's like the spoiled rich kids at your family's school. That's becoming clear, Rufus said. The earth elemental looked like a snowman made of packed earth and sand, but with thick arms instead of frail sticks. It was only around 2/3 of Jason's height, throwing off dust and dirt as it slowly moved. Jason rammed his dagger into its head. Special Attack Punish has inflicted Sin on Lesser Earth Elemental. Lesser Earth Elemental has no motive spirit and is immune to curses. Sin does not take effect. Lesser Earth
Wow.
Elemental does not have living tissue and is impervious to necrotic damage. Additional necrotic damage from Special Attack Punish does not take effect. As expected, Jason's abilities had no effect.
He don't
What
have
he
no
hadn't
effect
anticipated
on Earth
was that even the
Elemental.
hole from the knife closed up as soon as he pulled it out. He stabbed it again and again, and he was struck in turn by the elemental's crude, heavy arms.
Wow.
The elemental showed no signs of waning. For every chunk of earth he dislodged with his knife, more entered the hole to fill it.
So how would he defeat
Desperate,
it?
Jason crouched down and wrapped his arms around the elemental, gripping it tightly as he heaved back with all the might he could muster. His strength may have paled in comparison to Gary, but it was still improved over what it had been just a few days ago. With a wild roar of effort, he strained to straighten his legs, wobbling, but successfully standing up. In Jason's grip, the creature was lifted completely off the ground. He staggered as he leaned back for balance, but managed to stay upright under the weight.
Okay.
He clenched the monster with 1.5 arms, stabbing at it with as much force as just his forearm would allow. It wasn't powerful, but he kept stabbing with the repetition of a sewing machine. As he did, the creature brought its crude limbs down on Jason's shoulders and back. He ducked his head in, shielding it as best he could. Dirt crumbled away under Jason's knife as he struggled to stay upright under the creature's weight and the pounding blows it rained down on him. He stumbled, almost collapsing, but more and more of the creature crumbled away in larger and larger chunks. Jason's breathing was a death rattle as earthen fists hammered force through his back and into his lungs. His arms burned as they barely kept the creature in the air, his shoulders beaten until they felt like pulp.
Damn.
Finally, the creature crumbled away all at once, spilling through Jason's arms in clumps. You have defeated Lesser Earth Elemental. Quest. Adventure Notice. Lesser Earth Elemental. Objective complete. Defeat Lesser Earth Elemental. 1 of 1. 10 portions of pure heart sand have been added to your inventory.
Pure
Quest complete.
heart sand.
100 iron spirit coins have been added to your inventory.
What does a heart sand do?
Jason collapsed onto all fours, air escaping in hacking coughs that spat droplets of blood onto the ground. The others all ran up to him. I'll get you a potion, Farah said, but Jason held up a hand to stop her. He then put it back down so he wouldn't fall. No, he croaked. Familiar heals. It heals slowly, Rufus said. Jason turned to look at him, slowly pushing himself to his feet. He staggered, legs almost giving out again, but he stabilized, defiant. His breathing slowly lost its wheeze, each breath no longer agony. He crouched down and ran his fingers through the dirt. Would you like to loot Lesser Earth Elemental? He walked up to Rufus as the dirt behind him dissolved into smoke with a sizzling hiss. Monster Core, Iron Rank, has been added to your inventory. 10 Earth Quintessence have been added to your inventory. 10
So he got another monster core. Okay.
and 10 Iron Spirit coins have been added to your inventory. If the familiar heals me, that ability gets better faster, right? Jason's voice was still raw and gravelly. Yeah, Rufus said. Jason nodded and started a stumbling
Oh,
walk
so
back in the direction
that's
of the
why
main
he
road.
wants to have the monster.
Gary
heal.
followed behind Jason as the other two looked at each other.
That makes sense.
What was all that about? Farah asked. Jason has a lot of lessons to learn, Rufus said. This was him pointing out that I do too. Like what? Farah asked. Like determination. That being in a losing position doesn't mean you lose, so long as you're willing to pay the price of victory. In that sacrifice chamber, Jason was the weakest of all of us, scholars or no, but he was the one who kept beating the odds. He had some luck on his side, Farah said. My grandfather says the great adventurers are the ones who turn luck into fortune. And adventurers don't come much greater than him, so he'd know. Farah shook her head. The whole thing smells of male posturing to me. Why can't you have a conversation like normal people? You may be right, Rufus acknowledged. But I think some things we can only show with our effort. Farah made a distasteful groan. Little boys and their posturing. Jason was sorely meandering back towards the road when Gary caught up at a jog. How did you know to get it off the ground? Gary asked. There's a myth from my world, Jason said
What?
hoarsely. There was a guy who was invincible while he was touching the ground, so the guy who killed him did it by lifting him into the air. I thought maybe the elemental was healing itself by taking in more earth from the ground, so it seemed worth a try. You know, Gary
okay.
said, once we train you up a bit, you might actually be good at this.
Okay. Cool.
Chapter 33. Mist Run River. Back on the road, Rufus explained the local geography to Jason as they traveled. To the east was the inland veldt, a flat, sprawling scrubland. The desert they were passing through was similar to parts of the Australian outback, and it sounded like the veldt was as well. Is everywhere in your homeland a dry, desolate waste? Gary asked. They call it the Sunburnt Country, Jason said. It's very big, and the central region is very dry. Most of the population lives on the coast. This place is the same, Rufus said. The western region here, which runs along the coast, is a place of contradictions. Most of it is lifeless desert, great dunes that seem to go on forever. But right in the middle is a vast river delta, where dead sand gives way to fertile soil. The delta is full of life and heavily populated. The city of Greenstone is on the coast at the midpoint of the delta. You seem to know this place pretty well, Jason said, given that you're not actually from here. Rufus likes to over-prepare, Gary said. He was studying everything about this place for weeks before we left. Better too much preparation than not enough, Rufus said. As they followed the rough trade road, they eventually spotted some green in the distance. We're getting closer to the river, Farah said. The green grew wider in their vision until it covered the horizon. As they moved closer to it, the hard red earth underfoot gave way to soft.
So Jason's still pretty weak in comparison to the rest of them. Like, they're close to silver level. Meanwhile, Jason is like still 0% towards what, bronze? So I wonder if they're gonna reach silver before he reaches bronze. That's what I'm kind of wondering, if they're gonna reach silver first before he reaches bronze. It would seem like they probably would. It depends on how fast he develops and gets to bronze.
Brown dirt. The sporadic yellow wasteland grass became thicker, even showing hints of green. The packed earth of the road became too soft for the heavy wagons that used it, and had been paved over with rough desert bricks. The grass became denser until it carpeted each side of the road, with a haze hanging over it that bore the promise of water.
Okay.
There's magic in that haze, Farah said. It comes from the river, bringing the water magic that makes all this growth possible in the desert. Dirt gave way to rich, dark soil. The road took them between orchards, burgeoning with brightly colored fruit, and fields of tall crops. The haze thickened to a cool mist in defiance of the burning sun, moisture like sparkling diamonds in the air. Drifting through the fruit-laden trees, the mist created an ethereal fairy playground, a hidden Shangri-La within the unforgiving desert. Welcome to Verdant Fields, Rufus said. The name really says it all. The farms here and on the other side of the river feed every town and village in the central region.
Verdant Fields.
They started passing pickers in the trees and farmhands in the fields, shielded from the sun by the ubiquitous mist. Much of the heat still got through, but without the parching dryness that made the desert air so unforgiving. Jason and the others followed the road through the rich farmlands before they finally approached a wide river. There was a town covering the near side bank, shrouded in fog rolling off the water. The town bustled as they made their way down wide streets built expressly for the passage of wagons. There's always work for anyone who wants it in a town like this, Gary said. The riverside was a mess of docks and warehouses, teeming with people. Boats and barges came in and out, wagons were loaded and unloaded. Magic lamps were in heavy use to cut through the fog. Even with hours of daylight left, Jason noticed magic being used in an oddly workmanlike fashion, powering cranes or propelling watercraft. He saw rivermen and dock workers drawing runes that glowed as they took effect. There were 2 bridges that arched away into the mist on thick columns, high enough that boats could sail comfortably underneath. The fog hid the far bank from sight. A busy dockmaster promised them passage downriver in the morning, on the condition that they showed up on time. The organized chaos of the docks waited for no one, even fancy adventurers. They found lodgings for the night, a hostel for teamsters, with no more amenities than a barrel of water. A room full of unhappy wagoners discovered that Gary was a snorer. The next day they were on a barge heading downriver. Jason was surprised to realize that most of the watercraft were built not from wood or metal, but green stone. Farah explained that the local stone had a strong water affinity, making it easy to craft a magic-driven boat from. Rufus did his best to stay out of the crew's way, while Gary happily helped out. His overwhelming strength was a more than welcome addition. Farah took the time to show Jason how the magic propulsion pushed the barge along. There was a dedicated member of the crew whose sole job was to manage the magic. He was happy to find someone taking an interest, letting Jason and Farah see the various ways magic was used throughout the ship. Jason was impressed with the nuance with which magic was integrated into the barge. It was obviously the result of lengthy design iteration. Like other examples of magic he had seen, from lighting to indoor plumbing, this raised his estimation of the world's technology level. It seemed this world's reliance on magic placed it on a completely different technological track to his own. Boating engineer is a profession that uses little bits from various kinds of magic, Farah explained. They don't really understand anything outside of their job. They're professionals with skill, but a very narrow focus. As adventurers, we're better off with more breadth and depth when it comes to magic. We never know what we'll come across. As the barge sailed downriver, it left verdant fields behind.
Okay.
The mist coming from the river was thicker or thinner in various places as they sailed through, the surrounding terrain reflecting its life-giving power. When it was thin, the desert came right up to the riverbanks. Where the fog was thick, the river bounded with life. It might be a patch of wet forest or a long, gorgeous valley of lush green. This is where they grow mist
If I were to make a prediction on the story, I would say that by the end of this book, he'll probably be bronze. Just because I think that's how long it's going to take. Which is a fairly long time.
run tea, Rufus said as they passed through the valley. One of the finest teas in the world. Costs a lot back home. Mist Run was the name of the river they were sailing down.
So right now we're on
unimaginatively named for its signature mist.
chapter
According to Rufus, the source of the river was the largest water aperture
33.
in the desert. It's not a natural river? Jason asked. It depends on what you think of as natural, Rufus said. There's an oasis with the aperture at the bottom of a lake. All this water flows from there. The most exciting point of the journey came when the river reached a deep gorge. The river should have spilled into the gorge, but instead it flowed into a humongous aqueduct that spanned over the lengthy gap. 100 meters wide and 300 meters across. The carried the river and those who sailed it over the gorge to continue along on the far side. The aqueduct was built entirely from green marble.
Come on.
This is noticeably sped up the flow of the river and the speed of their barge. Jason looked out at the gorge, but they weren't close to the edge, and he couldn't see much over the raised lip of the aqueduct.
Okay.
All that was visible was an unnerving expanse of sky. Sky River Gorge, Gary said enthusiastically. I tried to get them to go closer to the side so we could look over, but they said no. How deep is this gorge? Jason asked. The pillars holding this thing up must be huge. Interestingly, Rufus said, this aqueduct has no structural support other than the two ends. That doesn't sound safe, Jason said. Rufus, I think you were wrong, Gary said. You did make too much preparation. You do kind of sound like a tour guide, Jason said. What's a tour guide? Rufus asked. Someone who gets paid to stand near interesting things to tell people about them, Jason explained. Farah laughed. Rufus, I think you missed your calling, she said. What's wrong with teaching people about interesting places? Rufus asked. It sounds like a noble vocation. If there was one here, for example, they could point out that no one knows who built this aqueduct.
Nope, that's dark.
Gary groaned. Why would you learn that? He asked. How does it help us with
A little bit
missions?
darker.
You carry on, Rufus, Jason said. I'd like to hear it. Thank you, Rufus said. The aqueduct was already here when people first moved to this region, some 3.5 centuries ago. At least that's when it was permanently settled. There's some evidence of people being in this region before, but no historical record of who or when. Except for that old order of assassins, Gary said. Yes, Gary, Rufus said. Except for that old order of assassins we very specifically aren't meant to be talking about yet. Sorry. Jason and his new companion sailed down the
Order
river all
of
day and into the night.
Assassins, huh?
Come morning, the pre-dawn light started casting out the dark, revealing them sitting perfectly still in a circle atop the blocks of stone stacked on the barge. Eyes closed, they slowly breathed in and out the moist river air. Rufus had stopped guiding Jason's meditation, leaving him to find his own way forward. Ability, Midnight Eyes, Dark, has reached Iron, 0, 100%.
Wait!
Ability, Midnight Eyes, Dark, has advanced. the
Wait,
moist
when
river
did
air.
this happen?
Rufus had stopped guiding Jason's meditation, leaving him to find his own way forward. Ability, Midnight Eyes, Dark, has reached Iron, 0, 100%.
Wow.
Ability, Midnight Eyes, Dark, has advanced to Iron, 100%. Jason threw up his hands, letting out a triumphant whoop. Rufus opened his eyes to look at the laughing Jason. You seem pleased with yourself, he said. One of my abilities went up, Jason said, happily. Just like you said it would. Makes sense that it was my vision power, since I'm always looking at things. You're certain it improved? Farah asked. The strength of your abilities is a nebulous thing, and self-deception is easy. No worries there, Jason said. One of my outworld powers lets me track the progress of my abilities. Really? Farah said, fascinated. That sounds like something the Magic Society would be interested in. When we get to the city, you should let me examine you with some of their specialized implements. No thanks, Jason said. I have a strict no specialized implements policy. He noticed their surroundings had changed in the time the group was meditating.
So what does that
They had
mean?
been passing through the
Can he
desolate
see
sand dunes of the western region
further
when night fell,
in-
but now they were surrounded
the
by
dark?
wetlands. The morning light was still dim, but Jason's now slightly advanced power to see in the dark made everything clear. He could see a couple of villages in the distance, paddy farmers and herds of some large lizard the size of a cow. The docile creatures seemed perfectly happy, wallowing in shallow water. Above everything was the familiar magical haze. The mist-run delta, Rufus said. We should reach the city by late morning or early afternoon. I've been thinking about that, Jason said. You three are kind of a big deal there, right? The three adventurers all answered at once. No. Yes. Yes. Rufus glared at the other two. Rufus is the big name, Gary said. We're just an afterthought. What's your concern? Rufus asked, still shooting Gary a look.
Okay.
I was thinking that if I rock up to town with you lot, Jason said, I'll be operating under expectations that I'm unlikely to meet. He has a point, Farah said. If he arrives under your wing, then people will be expecting some kind of highly trained expert.
Okay.
Not the kind of pressure a freshly minted adventurer needs to be working
That makes sense.
Pressure's good, Gary said.
That makes sense.
You strong. In moderation.
Man, bro,
Farah said.
Gary's always,
This time
oh
last
yeah,
week,
pressure's
you
good.
had
Yeah,
this-
strength,
that
tired,
made
yeah, it's good.
She's right.
Being
Rufus said.
strong is good.
Also, from the pressure's good, Gary said. Makes you strong.
Makes you strong.
In moderation, Farah said. This time last week, he didn't know magic existed, let alone adventurers.
It's only been a week.
She's right, Rufus said. Also, from the moment I arrived, the aristocratic families were trying to foist their scions onto me for training. They'll realize I'm training Jason sooner or later, but later is definitely better. That settles it then, Jason said, getting to his feet, the others following suit. I'll get off early and we can meet up in the city. Good, Rufus said. Find the Adventure Society and register. We'll find you from there. There are plenty of towns and villages here in the Delta. You can disembark somewhere closer to the city. Actually, Jason said,
I'm gonna
I
disembark
was
here.
thinking of having a look around, and there's no time like the present. He ran and leapt into the air, the starlight cloak manifesting around him. He landed on the surface of the river, turned around, and gave the adventurers a goodbye wave. See you in a few days.
Wow, he's on his own. Okay, he's on his own. Independence.
Chapter 30.
Don't need no group.
Waving the flag for secular morality.
All right, this probably gonna be the last
As best
chapter I
as
go
Jason
through.
could tell, the Delta was a mixture of natural wetlands
Nah.
and farmland that made the most of the ample water supply. There was
Maybe
a much
I'll
greater
do one
abundance
more
of
after
trees compared to the desert, but they were mangroves or narrow palms, far from enough to sustain a lumber industry. Jason wandered along paved roads that were set atop artificial embankments that divided the Delta into segments. Lush shrubbery and staggered brickwork ran down the sides to guard against erosion, while small bridges allowed water and the occasional dinghy to float between sections.
shit!
The roads themselves were the lifeblood of trade between towns and villages. The care and time that had gone into the ways the farmland and artificial embankments fit into the natural ecosystem were clearly the product of many years. Jason thought back to what Rufus said about the Vane estate and how it wastefully violated the existing environment. The Delta was the exact opposite, a sustainable arrangement that balanced industry and nature. The first town Jason arrived at was a farming community. Wandering into town, he experienced a strange confluence of familiar elements. Between the wide main street, the desert stone buildings, and the surrounding terrain, it was like someone had recreated a town from the American Old West in Southeast Asia using North African materials. Stone storefronts lined a main street where he half expected old-timey piano music to come drifting through the swinging saloon doors. Jason was actually able to find a saloon, although with disappointingly ordinary doors. They didn't swing and, wood being a rarity, were made from woven reeds. It was fronted by plenty of windows, none of which had glass, allowing light and air to flow inside freely. Walking in, he saw quite a few people eating at scattered tables, as well as at a long bar. A short breakfast menu was chalked onto a board. Most items were fried things he didn't recognize the name of.
Okay.
After a pleasant breakfast of rice porridge with nuts and dried fruit, Jason left to meander down the main street. He wanted to look around, and also needed directions to the city. The people were olive-skinned, with dark hair, which was normal for the other places Jason had seen. Only Rufus, with his chocolate complexion, and Farah, with her light skin and pixie features, had been different amongst the humans Jason had met. As for the aggressively Aryan Anissa, he had no other elves for comparison. There were a number of people going about their business in the main street, on foot or using carts and wagons. There were plenty of hydels, either yoked to wagons or tied to hitching posts. Like the wagons Jason had seen before, the carts and wagons here used bamboo for their construction, with a few wooden parts to supplement, such as the wheel rims. As he made his way down the street, he came across two people standing in the middle, talking loudly. It was a young man and a middle-aged woman halfway yelling at one another. "If you can't wait until the healer comes through at the end of the month," the man said, "then take him to the city." "That's what I want to do," the woman said. "But money's tight now. Rattling's ate half our crop and we can't afford a healer in the city. No more loans." the man said sharply.
Okay.
Then his face softened.
Getting
I
chastised.
sympathize with your position, but monster attacks are part of life. Look, I'll ask my father about extending your terms, but that's the best I can do. The woman was about to keep pressing her case when they turned to Jason, who had walked right up to them. G'day, Jason said.
Good day.
I, and pretty much everyone, couldn't help but overhear. If you'd like, I can give it a go. Give what a go? The man asked. Someone's crook, yeah? I might be able to sort him out. You're a healer? I wouldn't go that far, Jason said. I can't heal injuries, but I might be able to knock off a disease. I'm heading for the city to sign up as an adventurer, and one of my abilities deals with disease. Full disclosure, I haven't actually tried it out yet, but I can give it a go.
Okay.
You're an adventurer? The woman asked. Prospective adventurer, Jason
Let's
corrected.
see how
I'm Jason.
how this goes.
We can't afford to pay you, the woman said. Monsters tore up our fields, ruined most of our crop. That's rough, Jason said. But no worries, this one's on the house. Does that mean free? Sure does, Jason said.
It ain't
I can't
no,
promise results, though. I've never tried this ability before, but I'll do my best. This sounds shady, the man said. Listen to the way he talks. Look at him. He's clearly not from anywhere near here, and he doesn't have any eyebrows. Are you going to trust a man with no eyebrows? I don't have a lot of choices, the woman said. She moved to a
Are
nearby
you gonna
car.
trust a man with
Jason
no
and the other man followed.
eyebrows?
The inside of the cart had been filled with bedding to give as soft a ride as possible to the sick old man lying in it. His skin was clammy and pale, beaded with sweat. You shouldn't have brought him here, the healthy man said. Makes it convenient for me, though, Jason said. G'day, old bloke. I'm Jason. The old
So
man
what is
tried
he
to
about to
speak,
do?
but only
Can he
managed
heal a
rattling
little bit?
cough.
I wonder what he's gonna
No
do.
worries, mate, Jason said. You just hold on a bit. Jason held his hand out over the old man and chanted a spell. Feed me your sins. Ability, Feast of Absolution. Sin, spell, recovery, cleanse. Cost, low mana. Cooldown, 20 seconds. Current rank, iron, 0%. Effect, iron. Cleanse all curses, diseases, poisons, and unholy affliction. Recovery, cleanse. Cost.
So he
Jason
got
held
the
his hand out
cleanse
over the old
ability
man
to
and chanted a
cleanse.
spell.
Let me see.
Feed me your sins.
Feed me your sins.
Ability, Feast of Absolution.
Feast
Sin,
of
spell,
Absolution.
recovery, cleanse. Cost,
Recovery.
low mana. Cooldown, 20 seconds. Current rank, iron, 0%. Effect, iron. Cleanse all curses, diseases, poisons, and unholy afflictions from a single target. Additionally, cleanse all holy afflictions if the target is an ally. Recover stamina and mana for each affliction cleansed. This ability circumvents all effects that prevent cleansing. This ability cannot be used on self. The blood-red glow of life force light emerged
Oh,
from the
it
old
can't
man's
be
body as
used
an
on
ally.
yourself?
Recover stamina and mana for each
That's
affliction
whack.
cleansed. This ability circumvents all effects that prevent cleansing. This ability cannot be used on self. The blood-red glow of life
So
force
any
light.
ability that prevents you from being able to cleanse them, it circumvents that. So you can use it anyway. That's cool.
Emerged from the old man's body. It was far less potent than what he had seen from monsters, even dead ones, wavering as if ready to collapse. Inside the red light were flashes of unhealthy green, like algae in a stagnant pool. There were other colors, although not as prominent, a dirty white and a bleak, pale purple.
Okay.
Jason's aura sense could feel them tainting the life force. The unhealthy colors immediately started moving, rising up and out of the red glow to be absorbed by Jason's waiting hand. You have cleansed all the instances of disease, green mud fever, from human. You have
Green-
cleansed all the instances of disease, arthritis, from human.
Arthritis?
You have cleansed all instances of disease, osteoporosis, from
Osteoporosis?
your stamina and mana have been replenished. Stamina and mana cannot exceed normal maximum values. Excess stamina and mana are lost. Cleansing affliction has triggered Sin Eater. You have gained an instance of resistant for each instance of affliction cleansed.
That's 3.
I can cure arthritis.
Arthritis, bruh. He can cure arthritis, yo. Cleanse me, man. I got some arthritis in the wrists. I need in the hands. I need me some healing.
Is osteoporosis.
That's
Excess stamina
crazy.
and mana are
That's
lost.
so crazy,
Cleansing
bruh.
affliction has triggered Sin Eater. You have gained an instance
That
of
seems to be
resistance
really
for
powerful,
each
man. He
instance
can
of
do a
affliction
little bit of
cleansed.
everything.
I can cure arthritis? Is osteoporosis actually a disease?
Yeah.
The glow of the old man's life force was still unsteady, but clearly more vibrant after Jason's efforts. The other colors were gone, leaving only vibrant red. As the spell faded,
Green
the glow
was
retracted
evil.
into the old man's body. There we go, Jason said. The old man pushed himself down to the end of the cart to get out. Dad, don't push yourself, the woman said. Don't worry, the old man said in a croaky voice. It's like a fresh breeze has blown through me. Smiling, he got himself out of the cart with his daughter's help, then shook Jason's hand. It was a hard, calloused hand,
Thank you, sir.
reminding Jason of his great uncle, who worked mines his whole life. No worries, mate, Jason said. Although his spell only took moments, it had attracted the attention of several people, and a short time later, Jason found himself inundated with requests for healing.
Oh,
Soon after,
Lord.
a man wearing a badge pinned to his shirt arrived to see what the commotion was. This turned out to be the solitary town constable, who helped Jason get things in order. All right, the constable said to the growing crowd. I'm going to take this man over to my office, where he has agreed to heal everyone that turns up for the rest of the day, just like when a regular healer shows up. So go home, bring in your sick. He says he can get to everyone, but he can't heal injuries, only sickness. Also poisons and curses, Jason told the constable. And if anyone got bit by something venomous, the constable continued, you can go ahead and bring them in too.
That's crazy, bro.
Didn't disperse
He's just
until
healing all the
constable took
people who
Jason
got
inside his small
poisoned,
office, where he took a bottle of juice
sickness.
from a magic cooler box and poured them a glass each. You sure you're good for everyone? The constable asked.
This is gonna raise
No worries,
his ability,
Jason
man.
I could do this all day. You will, the constable said. Half of them will be turning away, though. I may have said you don't do injuries, but they'll bring them in regardless. You from one of the churches? Definitely not, Jason said.
Nope.
Then why are you helping all these folk for nothing?
Still feel like
Well, Jason said, since the gods are apparently real here, I feel like I should be waving the flag for secular morality. Friend, the gods are real everywhere. That's what people keep telling me.
All right, so I wonder how far is his ability going to improve, and what will be the improvement on that ability? Because that ability is already
Chapter
powerful as
35.
hell as it is.
Greenstone. Anything? Rufus asked as Gary walked in. They were renting a 3-bedroom suite for their stay in Greenstone. Rufus and Farah had been waiting for Jason in the sprawling lounge with the
All right, this is
huge
gonna be my
glass
last
windows
chapter.
overlooking the ocean. The doors to the balcony
Whew.
outside were open to let in the sea breeze. Nothing, Gary said. They had been checking daily to see if Jason had registered with the Adventure Society. It's been a week, Farah said.
It's been a week.
Do you think it's time to make some discreet inquiries? Not yet, Rufus said. Remember, everything is new to him. He's probably just taking his time to look around. Jason was riding on a wagon along the embankment roads of the Delta. The wagon was filled with crates containing all kinds of plants, only a few of which were fruits and
Hopefully, he'd been doing
vegetables.
some meditation.
Jason rode shotgun next to the driver, a man in his mid-20s. The driver reached back to grab a plant with a celery-like stalk. With one hand on the reins, he snapped the stalk in half with the other, a practiced gesture. He offered one half to Jason. Not medicinal, this one, the driver said. I just picked some up because I like it. The driver, Jory, was technically an adventurer, although he was the first to admit he rarely went on adventures. His true calling was alchemy, the brewing of potions and elixirs. He went out to the towns and villages looking for materials he couldn't find in the local markets. Or at a price I can afford in the local markets, anyway, he'd cheerfully explained. Jory had found Jason in a village, swamped by people looking for healing. It was something Jason had gotten used to as he slowly closed in on the city through 8 towns and villages in as many days. Jory had offered him a ride for the final leg of the journey.
He went through all the
Jason was never
cities.
shy about filling a silence, but that was far from necessary with Jory. He talked so much he kept having to wet his mouth from a canteen, even in the humid Delta air. He started telling Jason about his alchemy lab in
Talk
Old
that
City.
much.
Old City? Jason asked. You really must be new to the region. Greenstone is split into 2 sections. Old City is the original city of Greenstone, situated on the original harbor. The other part of Greenstone is the island. Originally, it was meant to be a massive breakwater when the ports of what is now Old City were expanded. Somewhere along the way, they turned it into a haven for all the rich people to leave the rest of us behind. Alchemy doesn't rake in the money? Jason asked. Not the way I do it. So they made an island and called it the island? Unimaginative, right? Jory asked. You do want to live there if you can afford it, though. It is very nice. Old City is where the money is made, but the island is where the money goes. Jory explained that adventurers could afford to live on the island, so long as they were actively working. Most of them had been born rich anyway, which was how they got their essences in the first place. Jory's
Okay.
own family lived there, but he himself lived in Old City. Everything he earned was sunk back into his alchemy research. Most alchemists drive their work forwards by pushing the boundaries of what alchemy can achieve at its strongest, Jory said. The most elaborate techniques, the rarest and most expensive materials. I go the exact opposite way, trying to make things cheaper and simpler. If I can make alchemical products affordable to everyone, not only can I help a huge number of people, but it will open up huge new markets.
Okay.
Jason had seen for himself that medicine in this world was essentially just whoever had the healing magic. Both ritual magic and alchemy had ways to heal, but the cost and expertise required placed both out of the reach for most people. Most healing was done through the Church of the Healer. From what he'd been told, their gods supplied the essences and awakening stones that gave them their healing abilities. They could be sought out for a fee, but also sent people around the Delta to heal people at more reasonable prices. It sounded good, but Jason had seen firsthand that there was always more demand for such services than supply. Jory hoped to rectify that with easy and affordable medicines. That's a noble goal, Jason said. How's it going?
I thought it was pretty
Reasonably well,
noble too.
Jory said. The advantage of researching cheap and plentiful materials is that they're cheap and plentiful. I've even started a clinic out of my laboratory, selling some of my early successes. It helps pay for my research, although the margins are thin to keep it affordable. That was the whole point, after all. Maybe you should talk to the Church of Healing, Jason said. They might be willing to fund your research. I had the same thought, Jory said. As it turns out, they see who gets healed and who doesn't as theirs to choose. The poor, in their uneducated ignorance, don't get the chances the wealthy do to understand the glory of the gods. As such, they need suffering to wash clean their souls.
Suffering
That sounds
to wash
familiar,
clean their
Jason
souls.
said, shaking his head. You get that kind of thing where I come from, too. Moving closer to the city, the embankment roads that crisscrossed the delta gave way to flat ground. All vegetation had been dug out or cut down, leaving a wide open space in front of the city wall. The wall itself was red-yellow stone, a dozen meters high. Roads leading from all around the delta led up to the high gates. Those are some big walls. There are only a few secure towns in the delta, Jory said. Most of the population comes into the city during monster surges. The clear space is to see the monsters coming? Jason asked. That's right. It's a lot of work to keep land this fertile clear. Back in the day, they used to try and spoil
Fertile
the ground,
clear.
stop anything from growing. I wouldn't think that would be hard.
Definitely
Jason
sounds
said.
Canadian.
I mean, magic is a thing, right? That might work somewhere else, Jory said, but not here. There's an inherent magic to all the water coming down from Mistron River. It has a strong life vitality, so you can't stop the growth here. The best you can do is beat it back. After a surge, they'll let it go until the next one is due. They've been keeping it clear for more than a year now. The last few surges have all taken longer than expected to arrive. Aren't longer gaps good? Jason asked. Yes and no, Jory said. Think about the logistical costs of a surge. Whole population shift, herds have to be culled and moved. Being in a state of readiness for years at a time is expensive.
Right, that
I can
makes
imagine.
sense.
Haven't you seen it for yourself? You would have been, what, 10, 12 when the last surge hit? They don't have monster surges where I come from, Jason said. They don't have monsters at all. They don't have monsters, Jory asked. Where are you from exactly?
Another world.
I was living in a city called Melbourne, Jason said. A long, long way from here. Very lean on monster activity.
Oh my
It
god.
must have an absurdly low magic density, Jory said, even
Yeah.
compared to here, and that's saying something. Oh, there's definitely less magic there, Jason said. We're pretty isolated from anywhere with real magic. How did you get here then? Not entirely sure, Jason said. Some kind of magical accident out in the desert reached out and dragged me right out of my bed. Must have been some accident. I've heard about long-distance teleport experiments with shaky results.
Yeah.
It was something like that, Jason said. I was lucky enough to run into some adventurers who helped me get my bearings. Not to mention a full set of essences, Jory said. Jory was iron rank, like Jason. He could sense the essences in Jason's aura as easily as Jason could sense his. Jason was still new to aura sensing, but he was getting a handle on it. Ordinary people were faint, barely detectable, while those with essences were much clearer. Most villages had one or two people with an essence, while anyone who had reached iron rank with a full set radiated out like a beacon.
Okay.
Monsters had an aura strength similar to those of an essence user, but their auras had a different feel to them. Rufus, Farah, and Gary had powerful, bronze-rank auras, but Jason had only caught glimpses. They could all suppress their auras, hiding them from Jason's senses.
Okay.
Farah had told him that higher-ranked essences users were expected to contain their auras. I kind of stumbled into those essences, Jason said. They came quick, but they didn't come easy. They joined a queue of wagons at one of the city gates. The line moved quickly, the guards barely glancing at the contents of his wagon. You're not carrying anything restricted, are you, Jory? A guard asked. Just the usual here, Jory said,
Blood.
then turned to Jason.
Darkness.
You're not restricted, are you? Not that I'm aware of, Jason said. You have a good day, Jory, the guard said. I'll bring my mother to the clinic, now you're back. Her leg again. Always welcome, Hugh. Jory drove the wagon through the gate and into the city proper.
Okay.
Most of Old City was built from the same red and yellow stone Jason had seen in the desert, although many buildings were painted in colourful whites and greens. They were mostly
I wonder if
one or
he's
two
gonna
levels high,
meet up with
but
them
3
yet.
wasn't uncommon. Over the rooftops, he could see the occasional building that jutted 5, 6, or even 7 stories high. The streets were teeming with people, even right in front of the gate. The air was filled with voices and the smell of spice. What's that I'm smelling? Jason asked as Jory let the wagon confidently into the street, people flowing around it like water. It's called chettle, Jory said. It's cheap, strong, and grows all over the Delta, so the street
Chettle?
vendors all use it. It can take some getting used to. No, it smells good, Jason said. I'll have to do some wandering around. They reached Jory's combination home, alchemy lab, and medical clinic, a large 3-story building. A sign above the door proclaimed it as the Broad Street Clinic. Although the street was crowded, the building was given a wide berth as 2 people brazenly vandalized the front of the building in the middle of the day. Rather than hooligans, however, they were wearing bright white robes hemmed with blue, yellow, and green. They both had ceramic pots of red paint and were writing the word heretic across the door.
Oh,
There was a small
some
crowd of passers-by who
religious
had stopped to
type
watch
of
the
stuff
show.
going on,
Ah,
huh?
damn it, Jory said wearily, pulling the wagon to a halt. Who are they? Jason asked. They're from the Church of the Healer, Jory said. The 2 men spotted him on the wagon, putting down their pots and brushes to march over and confront him. So, the heretic is back, one of them said. They were both young, around 18 or 19. Is this really necessary? Jory asked, still atop the wagon. Jason could sense from their auras that both men were essence users, iron rank, like Jory and himself.
Okay.
One of the 2 opened his mouth for a sneering remark, but was preempted by Jason. Who are these pricks? Jason asked loudly, as he hopped down off the wagon.
Who are these
Walking
pricks?
around the 2 men, he picked up one each of the pots and brushes they had put down when Jory arrived. Jory and the 2 men watched him, unsure of what he was doing. Who are you? One of the men asked.
Ooh.
I asked first, Jason said.
Ooh.
Is it a local custom to write what we think of people with paint? I'm not sure I can fit self-important turd nugget on your robes. Do you have a smaller brush? Still sitting on his wagon, Jory groaned, running a hand across his face. The 2 men turned red with fury, lunging at Jason. He threw the contents of the pot over the first one and threw a fist at the other.
Wow.
The paint landed, but the punch did not. A short time later, Jason was curled up on the ground. He could have tried using abilities, but he knew both men were iron rank. He was afraid that pulling out powers would be like pulling a knife in a bar fight, escalating things to the point of genuine danger.
Okay.
The clean one was satisfied with having laid Jason out with a punch, but the one splattered with paint was still getting kicks in. Come on,
Damn.
the other one said. We came to send a message, and the message is sent. The painted man gave Jason a final kick.
He's used to
picked up another
pain,
pot of paint
so
and
pain's
tipped it over
not that
Jason.
big of a deal.
Now it's sent, he said, and the 2 started walking off. The crowd of onlookers hurriedly parted to let them through, but the pair stopped when a voice called out to them. Hey! Jason yelled. The pair turned to see Jason, barely back on his feet, doubled over, but flashing them a bloody-toothed smile. You guys kicked the crap out of me pretty good, Jason groaned. I don't suppose you can point me to a Church of the Healer? The man covered in paint lit up with fury, his face almost matching the red paint splashed on him. Sprinting back with thundering steps, he brought a fist down on Jason's head. Barely able to stand, Jason's only defense was a bloody-toothed grin. The fist came down, and he crumpled, out cold before he hit the ground.
Bruh, this dude just keeps getting knocked out. Like, what the hell, man? Look, this motherfucker is the king of getting knocked out. Blacking out every single time. But that's it. Finish chapter 35. We're gonna go on to 36 tomorrow. But this was cool, man. This was cool. If you're watching, man, make sure y'all give me a like. Help support the channel. Help it grow. And I will check you guys out in the next video. Peace.